And welcome to another edition of the Spotlight interview. We are joined this time by, brace yourselves, boys, it's a girl gamer, that rare
Whoa.
mythical beast. I know.
They exist? Oh my God.
It's not a myth, ladies and gentlemen. They do exist.
Oh.
And they're not just fake bots trying to scam you. So we found one in the wild,
Not
a
this time.
rare beast. CaddyShackClay, otherwise known as Ferrograd Phil. How you doing, girl? Nice to meet you and nice to get you on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Mate, I was absolutely blown away. I got that recommendation to check you out, to join the group, and you put in an application, I think, and I was like, wow, okay, fantastic. Yeah, exactly the sort of person we're looking for to join Creator Club. A no drama, just a group designed to help people learn those little tricks and tips. And then when you posted your intro and you said you're studying psychology at the moment, and in particular looking at something called play therapy and how gaming can help people deal with trauma, identity, just all those different psychological issues. Based on the interviews I've been doing of late, I knew I had to talk to you. And it was almost like a thirst trap boy, wasn't it? You post up and within seconds there's this guy in your DMs. Hey, how you doing?
I guess it worked out,
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah. And even just in the little conversations we've had leading up to this, it's made me even more excited to get you on and talk about that, because it's something that ever since I stopped doing the Daisy podcast, it was like I suck at making gameplay videos. I'm terrible at it. I have no creative skills in me, but I could talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles.
Probably in there somewhere.
And it was like, what can I do? And it was, maybe talk to people and, just find out their stories and that, because we all know, the background stories of a lot of our favorite creators, those who are quite open, like the Running Man and that. But it's not just even creators. Like I've even spoken to a couple of just gamers now. Everyone's got an amazing story. And the common thing that I try to use to tie in to give the series that I'm doing now a theme is how we use gaming, and to find out that it's actually being studied now. And you talked about it specifically being used in the example of, where is it?
Are we looking for a D&D reference? Because I've got about 10 around me.
I can't find my one.
I have dice.
I found it. Why is it in the background? Dungeons and Dragons.
There he is.
Mint condition, still in box. The missus said she's probably going to try and find me another one, so that I can actually open it, because
you can open it.
Yeah. I don't want to open my.
I would have opened that thing so fast. He would be on my shelf.
Look at the artwork on the back of the box and that, though. Like,
and then that would be framed.
Oh,
yeah.
It's something that, again, when you said it was like the Dungeons and Dragons, I can 100% see how a game like Dungeons and Dragons, which allows people to basically do anything and everything, kind of, like DayZ does, but in a way that, you can live out whatever wild fantasies or storylines you come up with. And yeah. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. In terms of like play therapy, like with D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah. So play therapy, I can't tell you exactly how long it's been around. I don't know that fact. But therapy through things like, video games, role-playing games, that's been around for long enough. In terms of D&D, I didn't know it was a thing until my mom has a friend, and he and his husband do that sort of thing. My mom's friend is like a licensed therapist, and he works in a school with middle schoolers, I believe. And throughout the school year, they run like D&D campaigns. And at the time that she told me that, I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. Psychology was cool. I wanted to be a professional DM, but you can't really find that anywhere. And then I heard that, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
So hang about professional DM. Are you talking about Dungeon Master?
Yeah, sorry, I should specify. Yeah, professional dungeon master.
I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't some sort of like psychologist title or something like that, and that you were talking about
Okay.
thought it would be a dungeon master. Those who
Yeah.
aren't nerds like us two are the people who control the game. For a great example of it, check out The Big Bang Theory. Howard's character on there is probably one of the best dungeon masters I've seen in a TV show portrayal. He's really good at creating that immersion for the people, and it's a special skill to be a good dungeon master.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool. But yeah, in terms of like play therapy through D&D, um, Dungeons and Dragons naturally, um, talking strictly from like a very storyline, character heavy, role play heavy style of campaign. Um, there's a lot of immersion there. There's a lot of depth in in terms of, what kind of emotions and situations you can navigate, things you can do, people you can interact with, and in what ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so branching like psychology through Dungeons and Dragons, sometimes, which I think I mentioned to you, it's a lot easier to figure things out and get things done through a character when it's quote unquote not real, rather than just, doing it. You can immerse yourself in a different way that feels more comfortable because it's not you. But it's also somebody who can, relate very strongly to you or parts of you that you want to improve upon. Like I have a character I made specifically, this sounds so cheesy, but like before I met my now fiance, when I was like deciding, okay, I guess I'll like put myself out there, I made a D&D character to like explore like learning how to love someone. And I guess it worked because I'm engaged now. So but yeah, I guess that's one of my favorite ways that like D&D and psychology kind of mix, is really getting into the brain in ways that people don't always think is applicable.
It's amazing how our brains are such funny things. Like as I've gotten older, I've learnt more and more. And when you're young and you sit there and you think, well, they should just say no, or they should just but I don't understand why that's such an issue for them. But as you get older and you start to learn more, there's so much about our little monkey brains that we have no control over, and that because we do have freedom of will and freedom of choice and all the rest of it, the things that happen subconsciously, such as your sexuality, or how you feel as a person and all the rest of it, and even just how you deal with the traumas that you've had in your life. As someone who's got his own issues with my past military service and that, the physical effects, not just the psychological effects, the depression and that, but the way some of this stuff can manifest physically. It's really important that we're looking at all the ways we can to help people deal with that. And it's great that gaming is just such a novel idea, which I think would me myself, when I've had some of the psychologists I've spoken with in the past, and I remember one, he was doing, you probably know what it's called, but it was like he was doing these weird, it was almost like he was blessing me, but it was some sort of motion thing that was meant to trigger something in my brain. It didn't work on me, but I imagine that was maybe because I'm a skeptical, cantankerous, conservative-minded old bastard who views all this stuff as voodoo magic and all the rest of it. But if someone
that
told
was
me
not
that
for
I
everyone.
could, but if someone told me that I could play a game and it might help, it'd be like, well, fuck yeah, I'll play a video game. I love fucking video games. Even the average person just, when they finish their 9-to-5 job or whatever, they come home and they log on to de-stress, to data thump. I think it's much healthier than turning to a substance like alcohol or illicit drugs or whatever. It's great that you smart bloody buggers who go to universities and all the rest of it are looking into things like this.
Yeah, I think it's neat, especially in this day and age where, gaming of any type, video games, tabletop role-playing games, card games, whatever, is so prevalent. you eventually have to, for certain people, you have to speak the language that they're speaking to get through to
Yes.
them. Um, and yeah, gaming, again, whatever kind of gaming it is a fantastic way to do that.
It was kind of ironic. One of the things I spoke with you about was how my focus has been a lot on people with dealing with the trauma side of it. I've had King Alex on, who's ex-military, Facility BJJ, who had an extremely rough childhood. My last week's guest, Elisar, grew up in South Africa, had to escape, a extremely racist upbringing, and like so many people, he's about the same age as me as well, another old fart, and he just likes gaming because it's so laid back and chill, and forges these relationships. It's just awesome that people are doing this through gaming.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, to me, Daisy is like the most relaxing game, even if I'm getting shot at. It's fantastic because it's like it's my happy place, one of my happy
Well,
places.
I love the adrenaline rushes. Like, I'm so happy when
Oh
I'm
my
just
gosh,
running
me
around
too.
looting and all the rest of it. And even though I'm an absolute potato when it comes to PvP, one of the reasons I kind of always stick to PvP servers is there's nothing like that rush of, oh, shit, I saw someone, or a shot that rings out or something like that. So much goes through your head. And one of the things I've been discussing with people, the irony of, for a lot of people like myself, like King Alex, people who've had combat trauma and things like that, we love a game like this because in a certain way, it gives us our fix of adrenaline that you kind of need. You see a lot of ex-military guys that go and do contract work, working for these firms overseas, doing security and stuff like that, because they're always chasing that rush they got from their active service. This is not quite the same, but you still get those same physical reactions, that fear, the adrenaline pump, and all the rest of it. It's bizarre how a silly little video
Yeah.
game of pixels on a screen sitting in an air-conditioned room can give you a similar sort of rush.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are real, especially if you're running with people because
Permadeath.
in most exactly, and I never like give out my Discord or anything because I'm so firm on when we die, when I die, when you die, I don't want to see you again because that makes it so much like the loss, it makes it greater.
So
And
you really like the
I
RP
enjoy
style
that.
servers?
I've actually never played like a strictly role play server before. I had one
It's
sent to
hard
me
doing
recently.
sort of RP-ish on a standard PvP server because some people want to commit, some people don't. And I always liked Daisy Underground. I don't know if you've ever played that. They got some
I've
negative
not played that
publicity
one.
recently, but they don't deserve it. They're a bloody awesome community, and they go with what they call organic role play, which is you don't have to go on there with a full role play backstory that you've written down 12,000 words on your character's backstory, all the rest of it. But if someone is doing it, the only rule on that is don't be a dick. If someone comes up to you and they start doing it, either go along with it or just excuse yourself and say, no worries, mate, I've got to run. I'll catch you later. Don't ruin their experience for them. And I like that because it encourages people to still go on there, because that's one of the things for me that I love about DayZ is the PvP is great, but it's the people you meet that make this game so
That's what
special.
makes it.
The
Yeah.
absolute batshit crazy, insane mofos that, some people go a bit too far, but for the most part, they're just funny buggers. The betrayals, the laughs you get,
Oh, yeah.
there's nothing like it.
Nothing. Never forget your first betrayal. Yeah.
I see
It is
Solo Clone
really
wrote in chat there. I use psychology to play DayZ, gotten me out of sticky situations, also helps to find people. Oh, so he uses psychology when he's playing DayZ. Now, there's an
ooh,
interesting thing. You
love
look at you,
that.
okay, okay. Can you talk us through what he's talking about there? Give some examples.
Well, I can't speak on their behalf, but, it is kind of fun to, for lack of a better word, like, psychoanalyze certain people.
Yep.
You meet someone and naturally you automatically, like, come to certain conclusions. Like, I've met people before and they say one sentence and I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get along very well. And sometimes I've been right, and other times I've been completely wrong. And I'm like, you know what? That's on me. Thank goodness I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But no, when you're into psychology, you can, and even if not, if you just have like a basic understanding of how humans work, which hopefully you do, it's fun to mess with people sometimes.
It is.
I
It
was
is.
just sent a video by Cam Can't Run where
Yep.
he
Great
does like
guy.
the longest game of what's the word I'm looking for? Betrayal. Like, he does the longest betrayal. And I was like sitting in my room watching this and I was like, oh, that's so good. And he's playing them so hard and it's just like getting into people's heads.
There was
That's
a
more of a darker term. I don't know if that's what they were talking about. But
no, I love that. For me, I was always drawn to the people who did more than just mass killing sprees and just running around being as offensive as they can. Sometimes offensive is funny, but for the most part, it kind of gets boring. I loved the people who were more into the head game. One of my favorite creators of all time was a guy by the name of Danny Boy. He stopped making content a few years back, sadly, but he had this pleasant little British accent that made you think that he was reading a book by Paddington Bear or Winnie the Pooh in the Thousand Acre Forest. And then the video would just turn. And you were like, what the hell? The first time I watched it, I still remember just the emotion. It was like, what just happened? And he'd murdered the person. And he had this great editing style of the way he would do it, and little clips of the screen would go red, and little clips of him taking out a baseball bat. He tied the person up, and basically he was playing like a psychopathic, like a murderer in the game. And I did see some people saying, that's terrible. How can you do that? But I always argued back with it that guy just made a memory that player will never forget. They will. I can't tell you how many times I've been just KOS'd, running along dead in a field. Oh, okay, I got to respawn. Great.
Yeah.
But the times I was betrayed or things like that, I can remember nearly every single one of them, even the ones that I didn't make into a video when I was still trying to be the next biggest content creator. I remember all of those moments. And
You never
I
forget
get
it.
the gear fear side of DayZ and all the rest of it. But if you just extend yourself a bit and, lower your guard a little bit around people, still pay attention to them, there's so much more joy to DayZ than just find gun, go bang.
100%. I always risk talking to people for the risk of dying, because I would rather get a good story than, miss it because I've killed someone. Like, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
That's not as fun. I love like getting to know people as well.
Yes.
Like, just strange. Like, the first thing I always ask somebody after, like, their name and stuff, I ask what their favorite color is, because it's like such a small, relatively insignificant detail, but it's always interesting.
Blue.
I didn't ask you. Yeah. Mine is yellow. Blue's good.
blue, but I'm kind of weird.
Ask.
Red was my favorite color as a young fella, but when I joined the army, my battalion was called the Big Blue One, and I spent 9 years serving in that unit, so blue quickly became my favorite color. That said, I don't wear a lot of blue. I'm classic in that I like black, grey, green, ivory, khaki, olive, all of those sorts of colors.
Very specific.
And you'd expect a soldier to wear. But I also do, as you can see, I like Larry things like my Okanui shorts.
Oh, yeah. As a Floridian, I can respect that.
This is a an Aussie brand called Okanui, and I love them. Absolutely, I've had them for about 40 years in my life. I just love them. I love those petunia flowers or whatever it is, hibiscus that are on them. It's so
Hibiscus.
iconic. And yeah, I've always had a pair of them in my wardrobe. And I've even got a shirt that I had made for a trip I did. But you're a Floridian.
Yep. Land of the
Florida
Gators.
girl.
Florida girl.
I love the
It's too
Florida man
sunny.
meme. I love the Florida
Oh
man
my
meme.
gosh. I live with the Florida man. Are you kidding? Like, some of the things my brother does is he is the Florida man.
Yeah, he's like right into the rednecky sort of Florida man
Oh my
image that people
gosh.
get.
Yeah, we're like opposite vibes. He's like
Yeah.
pretty redneck. I'm like total nerd, but he's still a nerd deep down.
Nerds are cool
It's
again,
great.
and which is great to see.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He doesn't think I'm
So
cool, but you know, it's whatever.
he just doesn't know. He's stuck in the
Exactly.
yeah. So back to the play therapy thing. How do you know how long they've been using this for, or how long they've been looking into this?
I don't. I wish I did. As soon as we hit go
That's okay.
live, I was like, oh, I
That's
should
okay.
probably know that. But no, I don't. I see it everywhere when I'm like, job hunting or something. There's specific video games or specifically Dungeons and Dragons, and I always want to apply, but I don't have the degree yet. But it's definitely around now, but I can't say for sure how long.
Like I just typed in what is it into Google. So AI, oh god, AI. But the AI overview: play therapy is a therapeutic approach that uses the power of play to help children express their emotions, thoughts, and experiences, particularly those they may not be able to articulate verbally. It is a systematic and theoretical approach often employed by trained therapists to help children resolve psychosocial difficulties and promote optimal growth and development.
Hey, I
But
said
you were
it better than
saying
I
they're
could.
starting to look at doing it with adults now as well.
Yes. Yeah. Especially for D&D. D&D is in everybody's game, just to bring it back to like Dungeons and Dragons.
You don't get much nerdier than
But
saying
yeah,
you play Dungeons and Dragons. It's like Magic the Gathering.
that's what I was
Yeah.
Exactly. That's also a good game. But yeah, it can be for anybody. I go to therapy, and currently, in my sessions, I'm making a D&D character, like specifically just to like find parts of myself again that I've lost. But yeah, it can be used for anyone. It can be something as simple as making a character, even one-on-one Dungeons and Dragons, with a therapist and a patient is fantastic. Yeah, I've played one-on-one D&D. One of the best ways to experience the game. Super fun. But yeah, in terms of therapy, D&D is for everybody, really. To go back to the original question, I got off track.
I think you said Joe's your dad, so
Yeah.
I think he's bang on the money, and not just about RPG popularity, but gaming in general. Like we were doing the Daisy podcast back then, and the joke that I was making with my co-host at the time was, I can't go outside. I have to stay inside, and all the rest of it. What you've just made my life even more perfect. I'm sorry, but the gamers, this is our time to shine. They're like,
that's what I'm
wow.
saying.
Yeah,
I got into Dungeons and Dragons around COVID time.
What's the movie that came out to monopolize on it? That he's saying.
Do you remember the live
D&D movie? Yeah,
D&D?
Yeah,
that
movie.
was
Yeah,
great.
Yep. I didn't actually watch it. I was a bit worried. Like a lot of gaming oriented movies kind of leave you a little bit disappointed. But I don't hate all of them. Like a lot of people hate Resident Evil. I thought the Resident Evil movies are bangers. Mila Jovovich. Oh my god, that chick is badass.
I need to see that one. I have not played Resident Evil either.
Have you seen The Fifth Element?
No.
We can't be friends. We can't be friends.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. It was great.
It's a great movie. Mila Jovovich is just one of those fantastic actresses. She looks like she weighs 5 40 kilos, or I think probably that's about 100, 120 pounds when she's sopping wet in the rain. But God, she can play a badass.
That's great. I'll have to watch that. I'll put that on my watch list.
Yep. And look, anyone can ask a question in chat, and provided it's relevant, I'll put the question up on screen and we'll answer it. This is just a live, as I said to Caddy or Phil. I've got to come back to that. Why you call yourself Sverograd Phil? But
oh yeah,
anyone can ask a question, and if it's relevant, we'll answer that. So while we wait for that, what is up with CaddyShackClay? Clay is more of a male sort of name as well, and Sverograd Phil is definitely a male name.
Yeah, well, it's funny you brought that up to kind of capitalize on the conversation of being male. Personally, I have always felt more connected to like masculine characters because I had like growing up, I was more tomboyish. I could very rarely find like a female character that really fit me. I think like Pidge from the newer version of Voltron, she was pretty great. And then Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle that I saw when I was like 18. But other than that, the movies my dad showed me growing up, was like Lord of the Rings, and you have Aragorn, or Master and Commander, and you have Jack Aubrey.
Aragorn, I just watched a video on just how
fantastic
great of a role model that man is for
he's
men.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's the best. Yeah, he's like the male role model, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
not Andrew Tate, ladies and gentlemen. Not Andrew Tate.
Nope.
That guy's a fucking retard. Aragorn is the sort of guy who you respect. I would follow someone like him to the gates of hell.
Oh yeah, to the very fires of Mordor.
Yep. God,
I've got it on my arm. I should know.
My missus has got the ring, the one ring.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a cool tattoo though.
Thank you. Yeah, picked it myself. But yeah, all of the movies that my dad showed me, even going into like Interstellar and stuff, it was all male role models. So that's always just what I felt connected to. All except maybe like 2 or 3 of the D&D characters I play are male because I just can't connect to like a female character. The one I did is a mother, which that's, for me because I'm excited to be a mom one day. But going back to names, so CaddyShackClay, funnily enough, you've probably heard of Critical Role if you're in the D&D space.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So in their second campaign, one of their characters was named Caduceus Clay. And I don't know if it was like a one-off bit or if they did it a couple times, but they called him Caddyshack at some point. And when I was making a username, never seen it. Sorry.
Oh, I'm getting so close to hitting end stream. You got that's 2 strikes.
Dang it. Maybe I can, regain my honor somehow. But when I was making a username, CaddyShackClay popped into my head, and it stuck. In terms of Phil, though, the Severograd, if you can guess, comes from Daisy, obviously, which is my favorite city. I love it so much.
I think I'm in love with your dad.
What did he do now?
The comment he just wrote.
The alien one?
Yes.
In my defense, he watched it without me.
I have to go on a segue here. One of my funniest pop culture moments of recent times is, who's the chick who was in the Hunger Games movies?
Oh, Katniss.
Katniss, whatever her real name is. And she was doing an interview.
Jennifer Lawrence.
That's it, Jennifer Lawrence. And she was doing an interview and she basically said, as the first female action role model, bitch, please.
Sigourney Weaver's right there.
Sigourney Weaver, Gina, can't remember her name, but in Long Kiss Goodnight, my God, that is one of my all-time favorite movies. Even the chick who was in the Top Gun 2 movie, she was a fantastic female action role model. And even though she was just a fighter pilot, but my God, she nailed it. But for her to go and say that, it was like, come on, no, you can't claim that. So many people walked literally. Even Demi Moore in G.I. Jane was fantastic. There's so many of them. Meg Ryan in Courage Under Fire. It's come on. I know she was trying to talk about a specific thing, but to claim you as like the first, it was girl Sarah Connor, Gina Davis. Yep.
Oh, was that the actress?
Sarah Connor in Terminator was just absolutely brilliant. The first movie, she was kind of pathetic, always running and screaming. But hey, she's got a bloody T-1000 after her. I don't blame her for being kind of pathetic. Second movie, though, oh my God, that scene where you see her in the psych hospital and it's just like, what a character arc to go from helpless damsel in distress having to be saved by the strong male role model, how blasé and how overdone is that trope, to the second movie where she is a genuine badass. And I was like, nailed it, absolutely nailed her character. And I was so happy to see that because when they do it right and they don't try to pander, my God, they can absolutely nail a female action role model.
It's very true. You don't find it a lot anywhere.
No, I think they're trying too hard at times to inject it where it doesn't need to be. There's nothing wrong with being a feminine female. There's nothing wrong with being a tomboy female. But don't try to force it. And the vice versa. There's nothing wrong with being a feminine man. There's nothing wrong with being a masculine man. As long as you don't go to the extreme of the masculine side of it. Which is, again, I'm going to say it again, Andrew Tate is a fucking retard. I'm sorry. That word may offend some people, but that's on you. I do not like the guy. He occasionally, the word might come out that I kind of agree with, but everything about him, his ethos, I just don't like the guy. He's a nasty piece of work and he's capitalizing on male insecurity. He's a bad man. Naughty boy.
Naughty boy. There's actually a TV show that came out recently. You may have heard of it. It's called Adolescence. I watched
a lot of controversy.
I've heard about it and I was like, oh, this might be a little overhyped. But I love film, and one of my favorite things is like the classic, like the one shot, like the one take stuff, any scene that's done in one take. I love it. And so the fact that the episodes were all one take, I was like, okay, I've got to check this out. I watched it. It was incredible. But it kind of like what you were saying, it plays on that, like, Andrew Tate and insecurity kind of thing. I thought that was very interesting. They did a great job with it, for sure. Very emotional. I cried a lot.
It's kind of sad that it generated a lot of controversy because of all the stuff surrounding what it was based on, and the accusations of race swapping and all the rest of it. Because it's still an important topic that needs to be discussed. That there's a lot of violence and anger being generated in a lot of today's society, and they're acting out in extreme ways. But we might come back to this a bit later because we're kind of moving away from the play therapy sort of thing, which I still think we need to talk more about because it's such an exciting concept. And I sent you the video with King Alex that I did because I was talking to you about, you watched the other one I sent you, You're Not in the Forces Now, to try to explain that, again, going back to what I touched on earlier, our brains, for all the people like to think we can make, we have free will and we can make our own choices, and that's only correct to a certain extent. There are certain things, whether they're in your DNA or whether they're programmed into you, which is basically what military recruitment training does, that you have little to no control over. And it takes years, decades, sometimes you'll never be able to get rid of it, to be able to the first thing is becoming aware of it. And, in that video that I sent you, you're not in the forces now. The guy delivering the talk to it, he basically explains to him that you guys are different. And it's not a bad thing, but stop looking at the civilians like they're bad because they're not like you. You were changed. You're not normal. You were changed to what they needed you to be, which is basically, I hate the way that some people go full on with it. I saw someone put a comment the other day, unthinking, trained killer robots. No, that's not what most soldiers are. Sure, there are some, but most soldiers, that analogy he gives about, and I've said it before, about how for a soldier, it's he's talking to the wives in the video at this stage for those who are listening, and he's trying to explain to him why your husband reacts the way he does with explosive outbursts of anger and that. But he said, imagine a car coming down the sidewalk. Your natural human reaction is flight, but that's normal. That's what every single person does. But the army basically trains your husband, or in some cases wives, but they train their soldiers to fight. It's like while you're running to get away from that car, your husband's turning towards that car, and come at me, bro. And that's your norm. That's your new normal reaction. And that's an extreme example of it. But when you think about what they're doing, they're training you to. There's a person shooting at you, and nearly every single bit of footage, and sadly, there's too much of it online. When people hear shots, they start running away from the shots. That's a natural human reaction to do it. But soldiers run towards it. What he talked about with those people in the video is that, yes, your brain has been overridden to override it, but there's certain elements of that still build up. All that fear, all that stress, all that trauma, that builds up and then moves on to becoming PTSD. And depending on the severity, the length of exposure, all the rest of it, you're left with these traumas and the physical reactions on your body, which could be things like irritable bowel, gastroesophageal reflux disorder, hyperventilation. You probably know more about this than I do, but this is the stuff that I've basically learned through, since being diagnosed in about 2007, and then fighting with my Department of Veterans Affairs for years to get it accepted as service cause. And now I'm on what they call the gold card here in Australia, which is the highest level of pension. But the amount that I've learned about just how little control we have over some aspects of our brain, it's insane. And to find out that gaming might be able to help people with that, just it reaffirms what I was thinking. And yeah,
and exploring certain ideas and playing certain games can also, kind of like you're saying, like unlock things that are way deep in there that we don't realize are there, whether because we've repressed it on purpose or by accident, or maybe we just never acknowledged it in the first place.
Repressed memories are such a weird thing. Like, apparently I've got one. I don't know if I do. I think my mate might be misremembering, but he told me about an incident that we were involved in when I was in Somalia. And I remember part of it. A bus was ambushed by some of the bandits in the area. And I remember the bus driver because I got told to look after him. And I remember giving him a bandage so he could bandage up the bullet hole in his leg. We didn't have gloves or anything like that, so I was quite worried about getting blood all over me. And he wasn't like critically, it was only a minor flesh wound. But he told me about, I won't go too much into detail, but there was quite a horrific scene at the end of the bus. And he was like, yeah, do you remember that boy? And I went, no. He goes, do you remember the bus? And I was like, yeah, I remember the bus driver. I got told to look after him. And he goes, yeah. And then he came down the back of the bus to help me with the girl. And I was like, nah, don't remember it. To this day, I still can't remember it. And I remember nearly everything from my entire trip. But this one thing, he's certain I was there. So either he's wrong or I've repressed it. And I don't think he's wrong, but I've got no recollection of it. And I really don't want to, part of me is quite curious. Maybe if I went and did hypnotherapy or something, I might be able to unlock it. But the other part of me is going, nah, man, your brain locked that shit away for a reason. Don't unlock that. That's your professional recommendation as well. Don't unlock that shit.
I mean, if you want to, if you go for it, if you want to, but
I don't.
Probably a reason, So I would say unless you're willing to explore that, probably don't.
Unlock it, unpack it,
In my
explore it,
unprofessional
repack it.
opinion.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tedious.
Now, Virgil's got a couple of questions in there. There was one before that I did think was quite interesting, and he was touching on. Do you think with the prevalence of, especially during COVID, a lot of people found being locked up like that really damaging to their psychological health and that? But do you think that there's a lot of over capitalization or basically milking of the therapy market at the moment? We had that scandal recently with BetterHelp, which I'm certain you're aware
Yeah.
of.
Saw that coming.
But they're back again, which surprises the hell out of me.
Crazy.
People have really short memories, but I do see where he's coming from with that. In that, I've had quite a few psychologists and even psychiatrists in my time, and because it's such a vague sort of medicine, I hate to use that word, but it's not like you have a cut, there's a bandage. Yep, it's healing. Yep, it's healing. Oh, it's got an infection. Here's some antibiotics. Yep, it's healed. You're good to go now. Because it's so hard to quantify a lot of the improvements or gains or the measures, and people could lie about what they're feeling, or people might undersell what they're feeling, which is a classic male thing, especially here in Australia. We've got this whole thing of "she'll be right, mate." That's the mentality that a lot of blokes have. How you doing, mate? That was a pretty fucked up thing. She'll be right. Shit happens. It's a classic sort of thing. So do you think that there's some merit to what Virgil was saying there?
In terms of like oversaturation for therapy,
Yeah.
I think for a long time, therapy was looked down upon, like, oh, you need help. I'm not going to send you to a
Yes.
therapist. You don't need
Definitely
that.
agree.
Or, oh, you go to therapy. And now, I talk to people and they're like, yo, I just finished a therapy session. I'm feeling great. Everyone talks about going to therapy. And I think
Which
it's
is kind
great.
of what I think
that,
he was getting at. Like,
yeah,
have we gone from one extreme to the other?
I don't think so. In my opinion, I feel like it's like mental health is very important. Mental health is, just
Very.
as important as
100%
your
agree.
bodily health. And I think it's good that nowadays we're seeing a more positive acceptance of mental health and a realization that it is important, because a lot of people don't, acknowledge its importance in other people, or, more dangerously in themselves. It'll be like, oh, well, I'm fine. It's like, you might be fine, but, are you good?
Well, if we go back to the movie you watched, Adolescence, and what that was based on, there's people who probably could have benefited from some good therapy if they weren't already in it. And there's plenty of stories out there where therapists miss something. Like, I think the Texas University tower shooter, he'd been to the campus psychiatrist and told him that he was having desires to do what he did, and the psychiatrist pretty much just, oh yeah, okay. I know that's a very dumbed down version of it, but it's such a scary area, because there's a lot of pressure on the people who are seeing these people. To how do they manage it effectively?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely think a lot more people have been going to therapy. My dad's totally right with that.
I was going to say, I 100% agree
yeah,
with
I
that as well.
100% agree. Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, I think that is a big thing. There's a difference between, being proud of yourself and the improvements you're making through therapy, and, making a show of it, or using it as an excuse. Which sometimes it is an excuse, reasonably. Like, I have ADHD, and sometimes I just have a moment and I'll tell someone, sorry, I have ADHD, I apologize. But I'm not going around like, oh, haha, I have ADHD,
Well,
haha,
I'm
I can't
gonna
remember things.
I'm gonna point something out right now. because that's something I've been quite criticised by people, because as you can tell, I'm a very outspoken, direct and blunt person, and I've pissed off a lot of people with being the way I am, because I basically one of the things I've said is I really don't care about your sexuality, how you identify, unless I'm trying to court you. Other than that, that's between you and whoever you want to be with. I don't need to know. If I meet you and the first thing you say is,
That's great.
"Hi, I don't know, whatever, make up whatever word," and you insert, it's like, I don't, how, like you said, you meet some people in game. I sit there, I think, I don't think I'm going to like you, because this is the most central part of your personality, when it shouldn't be. There's more important things than who you want to sleep with, or whatever. I would argue that how you identify is arguably more important than your sexual preference. But you're talking about your ADHD. How many times do you open up someone's Twitter profile and it lists basically a litany of what should be on medical documents of ADHD, neurodivergent, post-traumatic, I don't know, 1,000 different conditions. And that's their bio. I like yours. Professional nerd, certified idiot, really great eyebrows, really bad puns, and a smiley face. That's cool. Not a thing in there about you having ADHD or anything like that.
Comes with the territory.
Is that really relevant to people first meeting you? You know, if you suffer from maybe autism or something like that, and you've got the social issues that come along with it, maybe. But even then, I don't think that needs to be on a Twitter profile, unless that's your industry, that you're working in that industry, or you're an activist in that area. But if you're just an average Joe, I don't get why you need to make that your personality. It just seems so weird. And I think it's kind of like what your dad said, that it's oversaturation of trauma and all the rest of that sort of is the real trauma or just decreased resilience? It's just oversaturation of it. It's like it's become cool to have something. No, it's not cool to have something.
It's hard to have something.
Yes. As like I'd be quite open about the physical effects that my PTSD has on me. And it's kind of embarrassing, but I'd rather it came from me and not my wife, like what happened to poor old iDubbbz. But I have irritable bowel as well. I shat my way across China, Mongolia, and Russia. Every time I got uncomfortable, it would be literally like, "Oh my God, I need to toilet. Oh my God, I need a toilet." And irritable bowel is not just I can hold on. It's I need a toilet in 2 minutes or it's going to be fucking bad. And this is something I have literally no control over, other than breathing exercises and things like that. But that only works so far. Medication only works so far. So,
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My anxiety, excuse me, my anxiety does the same thing. It's rough.
It's not nice when you genuinely have something to ease.
Yeah.
It is scary, Dorkwing. Like, for the most part, I'm good. But there are times where, I'm kind of good now, in that I've reached a point where I'm pretty comfortable, but I will still, and thankfully I've got the most amazing wife in my life. My missus is my rock, and she can tell when I'm out of sorts. She'll be like, "Boydie, have you had your medication?" If I've forgotten to have my medication. To continue, I don't know how up to date you are on your medicines. At one stage there, I was on 40 milligrams of Lexapro and 10 milligrams of risperidone every day. They had to call to get approval to give me my 40 milligram dosage of Lexapro, because apparently that's a very high dosage. I'm down to 10 milligrams now, and nice. That was good. And I don't take risperidone at all, but I still do have moments. I still have a few little trigger things that get to me, but for the most part, I'm pretty balanced. I'm still a very empathetically empty person. I find it very hard to have empathy for things that don't affect me directly and that I can't have any impact on. I like to do nice things for people, but do I care about stuff that's happening that has no impact on me? It's like, no, I've got more important things to be worried about than that. But that's just how I manage myself. I'm really. I think I'm going to be making moves on your old man. I'm sorry to say that, but I think he and I could be having a really nice bromance.
Cool.
Yeah, I previously said the only man I'd go gay for was Terry Crews, but I think Joe saying and Ed Benedictus is potentially being added to my gay pass list.
He's a cool guy. He's played DayZ before too, kind of.
Hey,
Yeah, I control and he does the voice. He talks to people.
now you have just brought me onto another great
It's great.
topic that I would love to explore with you, and that's being a female gamer. Now, we joked at the beginning about, oh my
I'd
God,
love to talk
it's a
about
grill.
that.
It's a grill. We've got a grill, a girl gamer. They do exist. But
Whoa.
when you said then about your dad doing the voice, was that for fun and games, or was that because you were just sick and tired of dealing with, what are you doing online? Get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. Oh, you hear that, boys? I'm a fucking comedian. No, mate, you're a fucking retard. That is the most low effort joke you could ever make. And that's not really a joke. That's
It's
just
like,
being a
come up
fucking.
with a new one.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
No, my dad plays with me because he likes it. Sour Sweet is my favorite DayZ content creator.
He's
I love
next
him.
level. His IQ in some of the shit he does is godlike.
If I met him, I would panic.
Is he
but yeah,
your
my
hall
dad.
pass? Is he your hall pass with your hubby?
No, that's Joel Miller from The Last of Us.
Sean Miller. Which one's Sean Miller?
Joel Miller from The Last of Us.
Ah,
Yeah, he's cool.
Pedro Pascal.
No, the video game version specifically.
Oh, yeah, he's kind of hot. He's kind of hot. I'll admit that.
Troy Baker does a great job.
Why didn't they get the voice actor to portray him in the series? Like, I get Pedro Pascal's the flavor of the month, but the guy has the voice, and
he's fantastic.
He looks like him.
He looks it. He made a cameo, but of course it's not Joel. But I do think Pedro Pascal did a very good job. I think he embodied who Joel is and who the story was very well. But going back to my dad,
girl gamers.
So, in terms of like my dad playing, before we get to the girl gamers, he'll watch Sour Sweet videos with me. He loves like all of the other people that are like really funny. Like he likes that, and he'll love watching my videos. And so one day he was like, "Oh, could I play with you?" And I was like, "You want to?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll be Uncle Nicky," which is his like this character he does, and we did it, and he met some people, got killed, got betrayed, that's normal DayZ experience. We had a good time. But in terms of being a girl gamer, it's honestly not as bad as you would think, especially in DayZ. The DayZ community, for the most part, is fantastic. I can like count on both hands the number of times I've had a difficult experience because of my gender. And usually when I do, it's something, it's as simple a fix as being like, that's a weird thing to say. Or, I have an IJ and you have a head and, I don't know. But I have a very hard time on squad. I can rarely play squad. So I think the DayZ community is really what does it. They're pretty cool.
Do you think that's because it's more of a mill sim and it's evokes that men doing manly things mentality of a lot of the people?
I think so.
I just put a link to Danny Boy's channel in there. If your dad can click on it and he can open up that channel, because if you guys love the psychological stuff, I don't think anyone really did better than Danny Boy. He never got the love he deserved, but his videos were absolutely phenomenal. And he didn't always kill them, which was, again, a stroke of genius, because you never knew whether he would or wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that. I'm into that kind of thing. That's so fun. But yeah, in terms of being like a girl, the thing that I do find the most, which I think is interesting, even if people aren't, misogynistic, I get questioned a lot. Which is very interesting. Like, people don't think I know what I'm doing. The biggest one that I always remember as an example is on Daisy. I was in Northwest Airfield with a group of like 4 guys. And you know the flares go up before the gas bombs, and a flare went up, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, there's a flare. We should probably go." And as I said it, it must have been up there for a while because it faded away. And the one guy was like, "Oh, no, I didn't see it." And I was like, "Well, it was there. I definitely saw it. It just faded away. Are you sure you saw it?" "Pretty sure. Pretty sure." And it wasn't it. "Nope." And then the gas bomb comes and they're all running and I'm like, "I told you." But yeah, no, I get questioned a
It's so
lot
hard to see during the day, those, aren't
in
they?
terms of my knowledge. Yeah, they are. They are very hard to see. I saw it because I don't know, I got lucky, I guess. Happened to look up. Everyone knows Daisy players don't look up. um but yeah, I think my knowledge being questioned is probably the biggest thing. But maybe it happens to other people and I just don't know. And I'm just selfish and think it's just me.
Yeah. Well, look, I do wonder myself. Like I've seen it a few times when there's a female on, and some of the boys turn into absolute sweat lords. It's a girl. It's a girl. And they either turn into simps or they turn into little pieces of shit. And
I get
it's
mansplained to a lot. A lot.
Can you give
I'll
me
be
an
like,
example? I need to hear an example.
well, yeah, well, like, they'll either, like, you know, so I'll, like, it could be something super obvious, like, you know, I switch out a Scorpion for, like, a Mosin, and they're like, "Oh, the Mosin's a better gun because of this and this," and I'm like, first of all, that's obvious. Second of all, I know that. Like, I think I've been playing long enough to know. Or,
Is
I
that the
always
case
love
of
when
like they know that you've got a lot of hours in the game, or they think you might be someone new, or is that they know you and they're just being dicks about it?
no, they even if I tell them I've got a lot of hours in the game and they're strangers, they'll mansplain to me a lot, you know, "Oh, you have this sickness? Take this medicine. This medicine does this and this." I'm like, "I'm the one who suggested the medicine in the first place."
Look,
My
in their
favorite
defense for
is
that one, I do that quite a bit as well myself, because I'm genuinely stunned at how little many people know of certain aspects of DayZ that
that
isn't
is fair.
in Go Pew.
Sickness is
Um,
hard.
Yeah, because some do you need to take charcoal for this one, or a codeine, or do you need to? And they changed it a while back as well, and there's people coming back to the game who aren't aware of the changes to some of the
Yeah.
sicknesses, and now you've got the new one from Sakal, and but the better way to word that would be, oh, you're dropping the Mosin. Why? Ask the person why. And then if their answer is, "Oh, I figured this would be better." Yeah, look, if you're close range, it's going to be better because you're going to be able to pump out a lot more rounds. But the Mosin, for the most part, if you hit them in the right spot, is generally a one-shot kill. Would be the better way to go about it. So I think that more comes down to, yes, a lot of men have a tendency to want to, but that's an inherently male quality as well. That
Yeah.
for the most part, we want to fix. We like to problem solve, and we're not the most, we're not the greatest communicators. Definitely a fault of mine. Like I said, I could talk underwater with mouthfuls. Talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles, but most of the time I'm talking shit. But many of us just struggle to work out the best way to communicate what we're trying to explain to someone. My missus pulls me up on it all the time. It's like, really? I'm like, sorry, darling.
I do the same thing. I get that.
Yeah.
We all do it.
Now, I've actually got a really interesting question that I'd love to know your take on it. And it's a question that I've been trying to work out for the life of me. But one of the things that it genuinely surprises me, because in sport, you can clearly understand why men are stronger, men can run faster. In general, when it comes to physical stuff, men have the edge because of our biology. why is it in esports that we've struggled to see so many female? And I've watched videos on this, and I don't think anyone's ever really answered it correctly for me or given me a reason why, other than the main thing I see it come back to is, well, girls really just aren't that interested in gaming unless it's Candy Crush, and it's like, okay, it's a bit of a trope, but it is kind of true. Most girls don't go into anything more than just those simple sort of little games, Farmville, Candy Crush sort of thing. But there are girl gamers out there, and some of them are absolutely phenomenal. But we struggle to see any of them make it into that elite level of esports. Why do you think that is? Is it biological or is it psychological? Because I struggle to understand, like, just with mouse and keyboard, it's a pretty simple. It's not like we're talking about, all those things that scientists and that believe that men have the edge in because of evolution with, combat and hunting and things like that. This is just tapping away. I've seen women keyboardists. My fucking God, they are fast. So I don't understand how, and that's not to say there aren't good gamers. Like, there's a chick I'm aware of in the PUBG scene, Danuc, I think her name is, Danucd, and she's this tiny little, again, probably weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. She's even got that bloody annoying chipmunk voice, which is cute when they're a little girl, but when they're an adult, it's kind of like, really? Yeah. Girls need to have a puberty change in their voices like men. If you're going to keep that voice, that would annoy me. I couldn't live with that. But she's an absolute beast when she plays that game. She is clicking heads left, right, and center. But when you look at the PUBG professional esports, well, I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but when I was big into watching it, never saw females in it. And for the life of me, I can't understand why that is happening. Is that something you've looked into yourself or got any thoughts on? Because it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crossed my mind. I've definitely thought about it, but I don't know. I guess I never thought about it further until you brought it up. Because it is interesting. It's not something you see very often. You're making me think. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Thinking about it psychologically, I'm sure there's part of it that is psychological. But then, you have to get down to personality and upbringing and what makes someone, who they are in terms of like interests and, even if we want to get back into psychology, like coping mechanisms and stuff like that and things they enjoy. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into this more because now
I would love you to, because it literally, I would love to see them do some tests of, maybe stick them onto one of those training simulators and just see, is there a physical difference on average that would make it much harder for a female to be able to rise up, because it's frustrating. Because I don't get why there isn't. Is it just purely, the same sort of thing as to why more men do tradie jobs, why more men want to be soldiers? It's just more attractive to men. It's not to say women can't do it, but, because of that, by virtue, you get to see a lot less people rising to the tops of those industries. And again, it doesn't make sense because, I know they've tried in the past, and because they've, again, coming back to what we were talking about before with female action heroes, they kind of tried to force it, and it didn't end well with the girls. Apparently, they did very poorly in the esports for League of Legends or whatever it was. But how can there not be just even one or two? Because it would be a ratings bonanza for them. A couple of girls who are at that level. The boys, the little simp lords who want to throw their money at the pretty girl on the camera, they would be all over them, wouldn't they? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm definitely gonna have to look into this because now you've got me interested.
I've given you a lot of stuff to think about over the last few days, haven't I?
I
got you onto the soldiers dealing with stress
classes.
Well, it's probably a good one to bring up with your teachers and that, because
Yeah.
I would love to see it. And even in the DayZ community, you look at some of the girls who play Holly and Lady Adventure and all the rest of them. Even Kiwo back in the day, one of the first high profile female DayZ players. They hold their own. A game like
Yeah, they're
DayZ is great for it
fantastic.
because it's not a very fine motor skill like a CS:GO, which is very hard. You pretty much once you again, this is me being me and kind of semi-offensive, but pretty much once your balls drop, you're too old to play Counter-Strike anymore because your reflexes are dying. That's a game for the young kids with 10 cans of Red Bull in them, because it's all muscle memory and repetition. A bloke my age, 53, who wears glasses that I need to get a new script for, there's no way I could perform at the top of the game in that game. But DayZ, no. It's not just a case of being an insane PvPer like a Smoke or a Toprek. You look at the guys like Super FT LOL, if you've ever heard of him. That guy's a strategist. One of my close friends, actually, I'll send you his channel as well because I'm certain you'll love it. He's a thinking man, a Renaissance man, if you will. And he's got a video out called Applying the Art of War by Sun Tzu to DayZ. And he talks about the psychology of DayZ, and how this game gives you so much more. And he's got this one great video that I love to share where I think it goes for like 3 or 4 minutes tops. But he talks about the physical reaction it had on him. And he was at the well in Zelenogorsk, I think it was. And he saw a movement, just something out of place, and it was at night. And this is back in the early days of DayZ as well. And he said he wasn't sure if he'd seen something, but he took appropriate actions. And then afterwards, because like a content creator, he was recording, and sure enough, he'd seen a person run probably 150 meters past between 2 buildings, just this little flicker. And he said that's one of the things he loves about DayZ, that you get these physical reactions and the psychology of the game that games like Call of Duty, even PUBG to an extent, just don't capture, because DayZ's got that unique psychology. Like Dean Hall, please go and watch that interview I did with Dean Hall as well. He's the guy who created DayZ. He was a master of the idea behind this game, because it has defined a generation of games that have all tried to imitate it or emulate it. The ones that emulate it, I think, do better. But there's a reason why DayZ is still in the top 50 most popular games.
100%. And here's a fun psychology thing for you as well, building off of like the seeing a little like something out of the corner of your eye. That has to do with something called absolute threshold, which is super fun.
Absolute threshold.
Absolute threshold, yes.
Yep.
And it's defined as the minimum amount of stimulation needed to detect a particular sense 50% of the time. So
hang about.
Light...
I'm actually messaging that mate who made that video right now. I'm talking about your video where you saw that guy run between buildings. The guest said that is tied to something called absolute threshold.
Yes, it's very fun.
The minimum amount of stimulation required to what?
To detect a particular sense 50% of the time.
He'll love that. He will love this.
There's a fun thing with it. So the examples that are commonly given is like the dimmest light you can see, the faintest sound you can hear. But the fun thing is that your threshold can grow based off of like experience and, knowledge and time training. So, DayZ, when you first start out, you're not going to notice that sort of thing. But after you've been playing for a lot longer, you start to notice the movement through the trees, like, however many kilometers ahead or not kilometers, meters ahead. Or, you start to hear the footsteps among the growling zombies that are
Okay,
like way off.
I'm gonna give you some homework today as well.
Okay.
There's a guy in chat. I want you to analyze him. Matt Z. Heard of
Okay.
him?
No, sir.
You need to look into this guy. He is
Okay.
a very interesting man. I like the guy, but my God, you think I upset people? He upsets people a whole lot worse. Matt, I'm talking to a student of psychology, so expect your DMs to be flooded with, tell me about your childhood. Did you have any sexual
How do you
feelings
feel
towards your
about
mother?
that? And how does that make you feel?
He has a sense of humor. He'll get this, but yeah. Yeah, that's see. I'm in love with you even more now, mate. You've got a good sense of humor. I like that.
Thank
what's
you.
actually I'm saying
I'm funny
there?
sometimes.
No, mate. Everyone's got their own sort of funny thing. Talk about the girls struggling to make it to the top of esports. I think it may stem from the whole stereotype of programmers being greasy young guys in their mom's basement. Maybe because of this, much to do with computers tends to be viewed in a masculine sense. I think he's got a point there to an extent as well. You know, a lot of girls who maybe might be more predisposed to having those sorts of whatever the skills are required to be at the top of it might just gravitate towards other industries where they don't get a chance to find out that this was actually what their skills might have been best at. I don't ever recommend becoming an esports professional because most of them literally having to still live in their mother's basements because it doesn't pay that well in many cases. I just saw sadly that League of Legends, I think it was, or might have been Overwatch 2, their sports league has made a deal to do esports gambling to help finance the industry, which I thought was absolutely terrible. Sadly, it popped up in my feed as a recommendation from Asmongold, and he made a prediction that was kind of correct. He said, if the esports industries want to have stability with their sponsors, they need to go to porn, gambling, and alcohol as the three industries to fund them, because they're about the only three that won't run from them every time there's a scandal, because they're so desperate to get money out there. And it's kind of sad that it's true.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't like gambling being associated with games. I hate loot boxes. Again, the whole psychology around those is very, very predatory. But
I have a fun fact for that too.
Go for it. I love fun facts.
It's called, so there are schedules of reinforcement in psychology. The one associated with gambling is variable ratio schedule, it's called, which just reinforces a response after an unpredictable number of responses. So gambling, fishing, I think Daisy could maybe fall into that category.
Golf?
Oh, this life I'll get here. Golf? Maybe golf. Yeah, maybe sports. Yeah, there's just a fun little tidbit.
and again, coming back to that thing about, we all think we have freedom of choice and free will and all the rest of it. But one thing that I like to remind people is that all of this marketing and all of these campaigns, they're designed not just by people who've done a marketing degree, but they get psychiatrists in, they get psychologists in who talk to them. And, it's everything from where the milk is placed in a grocery store to the music that's playing, impulse buying. And when it comes to games like my game in this genre is a game called World of Warships. It's the best naval battle game out there, but it's a freemium, I like to call them, and semi-pay to win, because there are certain ships you can only get by splashing out cash. And to get an edge, you've got to either spend money or gamble on the loot crates. And so they lock stuff behind loot crates. And there's all those little tricks they do that here's a free crate, and it gets you used to clicking. And again, whilst I've never done the studies, and I probably get more wrong than I get right, I'm fascinated by psychology, and it's all about getting that first buy-in. once they press the money that links, once they press the button that links their credit card, it's once they've done it for the first time, they're more inclined to keep on doing it. So give them stuff for free, give them stuff for free, give them stuff for free. Oh, you want to get this next one? It's only going to cost you $1.99. And then once you've done it, you're doing it again. You're doing it again. And that's how a lot of these kids end up spending $8,000 on mum and dad's credit card. But as bad as it is, people will say the kids should have known better. It's really bad when they're doing it on kids because kids just don't know better. We don't let them vote for a reason. We don't let them drink at a certain age for a reason. Why are we letting them play games where mum and dad do the nice thing because they love their kid and they want their kid to have nice stuff, and they link the credit card, and the next thing mum and dad are getting a credit card bill for $8,000 for Fortnite V-Bucks because kids are suckers for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they don't know any better.
And it's introducing them to gambling.
The system's rigged.
It is.
Yep.
But
it's wild.
Well, see, this is what I warned you about. I have a tendency to waffle. I have a tendency to go off on tangents. What was the topic that we were? Let me scroll back because I think some of the people had comments about it. Your dad again said, "I wonder if males just have more screen time traditionally." To some extent, yes, but there's a lot of what I would call your stereotypical manly males who don't like gaming, who view gaming as something that pussies do, that real men are in the gym, or real men are out hunting and skinning frogs and climbing hills and that sort of stuff like that. So
sorry, I'm a flirty and I don't know what those are.
What was that? Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Florida's flat. I was making a joke about Florida being flat. We don't have hills. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's in terms of like screen time between men and women, I'm sure there's a so I'm looking for a statistic on that somewhere.
My mate Vigilante just messaged me back because I knew he'd be fascinated by what you just said. He said, I'll be reading about then. Seems like it can be increased dramatically. I've noticed it dropped off a lot when I stopped playing regularly. His sixth sense awareness, so to speak. But yeah, he's right into that. He's got a second video called Keto where he goes into a lot of psychology around. He does BJJ, and he talks about that. He talks about some of the problems with deaths in custody and things like that. And he's got a very analytical mind. Again, I kind of this is going to blow his mind a bit, but I kind of view him as like an Aragorn style male. He's a very calm and authoritative person. And when I first met him, I said to him, have you ever been in the army? He just had such a military analytical way of thinking about things. He goes, no, I'm fascinated by this stuff, history and literature. And I'm so glad I got to make a lifelong friend out of this fucking video game. That's how I met him.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, another fantastic thing about the game, all of the people you meet that, do stick around. It's really cool.
What do you think of the relationships that people form online? Because you'll get some people who, in my opinion, don't understand the online gaming communities and that, but who say they're not real friendships. You should be out touching grass.
I think it's no different than being in person, really. I mean, I met my fiance online, and then we lived in the neighborhood next door to each other, which was a fun story there. Crazy coincidence, but I met my fiance online. One of my best friends I met online through Sea of Thieves, actually.
Yep. Never played that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a fun. Yeah, they changed it a lot. It's fun. Not what it used to be, but still fun. But yeah, I don't think it's any different than being in person because, you're still meeting real people and the connections you're making are real. And that, there is the stereotype of, oh, well, what if, they're not a real person and it's actually like a, 80-year-old creep or something like that, which is sometimes true, but most of the time it's really not,
I like to say I'll take people at face value.
Mhm.
I've supported a few charity campaigns that people have had, and that, like, there's a mate in chat, LSR. I've never met him in person. I've had some dealings with him. I ordered some Wedgwood for my wife. She's addicted to Wedgwood Paonia blush Chinaware. And I'm trying to complete the set. It's not made anymore, and I'm down to 2 items left that I need to get for the full set. And one of them could only be shipped from Hong Kong through Thailand. And LSR and his wife live in Thailand. He sails yachts around the world for people to move them from one location to another. Amazing job. And I'd only known him maybe a month and a half, 2 months. And I just messaged him and I said, mate, can I do this, order it, get it sent to you? He gave me his full name, address, everything like that. I paid the $300, shipped it to him. He on-shipped it to me, and then I did it again. And this is someone I've only met online. Could I have been scammed? Sure. But I will take people at face value until they prove to me otherwise. Yeah, I don't just sit there and blindly. If I detect bullshit, I'll call it out. And I've met many a
Right.
bullshitter. But for the most part, if you're not detecting bullshit, and you'll see it a lot of times. I get it with comments on my guests. People go, "Oh, that person's so full of shit," and I went, "Okay, you're entitled to that opinion, but I didn't detect anything that would say that." So I think you're just being a nasty prick. But treat people kindly, how you'd like to be treated yourself, and take them at their face value until they prove otherwise, that they're not to be trusted, or that they're a compulsive liar, because there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, use your intuition and be smart, but you're doing the same thing in person. There's
yep,
no difference in terms of that. You're in as much danger, quote unquote, in real life than you are over a video game.
yeah. Well, I
But
think you're a lot less danger online, aren't you? Than
that's
IRL
true.
meeting strangers. Yeah,
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
yeah. But no, it's. I love the fact that I've got to meet and make some great lifelong friends through this fucking weird little video game. My wife knows I've got more friends online, but with, again, going back to let's make this about me. Let's make this about me, people. No, I'm joking.
That's what they came here to
But
see.
no, they didn't. But they heard there was a girl gamer. So we've got 10 simps in chat. Sorry, 9. Your dad's not a simp. That'd be really weird. That'd be West Virginia family relations, wouldn't it?
My fiance's here too. Oh shoot, what's the Alabama is the stereotype.
Alabama, yeah.
Yeah.
That's your state. That's like our
Sweet
Tasmanians. We call all
home
the Tasmanians.
Alabama.
But yeah, it's I always get sad. Like, I've seen some great, beautiful videos of when people have done tributes to friends who died. Sadly, we recently had Gecko Fish lost one of his close mates, Big Buddy, I think his name was. I didn't know the guy, but it devastated him. They met through gaming. They became lifelong friends, and we've seen it time and time again. DayZ, to their credit, they people could reach out and they'll just erect a little cross in that person's place. They don't make a big song and dance about it because they don't want people to be dicks. But if you can prove the provenance of it, they'll erect a little cross. One of my mates, when I say mate, that's probably being a bit loose, but one of the guys I knew and had a lot of time for, from my favourite server, get your bingo cards out, folks, DayZ Down Under. A guy by the name of Doc Satan passed away tragically. He got a really bad virus or something, and just died. And it shocked everyone. And they erected a nice cross near the Northeast Airfield, which has got a UN helmet on it, which is his cross. So whenever I'm on that map and I'm in that area, I always go by and I'll leave something there just as my little tribute to him online. And I love that they do that. Not a lot of games will do that sort of stuff. And they'll do that for not just big name people, but for anyone. There's little crosses everywhere in the game.
It's amazing. I always love finding those. I was reading today, someone made like a Google site, like a memorial. I forget what they called it, but it had it compiled all of the crosses, throughout DayZ, like Gennaro, Slavonia, that kind of thing. And then notes, from devs or the people, who lost someone. And I'm sitting there on my laptop and I'm like, don't cry, as I'm reading it. But yeah, no, it's really, it's touching and it's meaningful, for,
It still hits
families and
you the
friends.
same as if it was an IRL friend when you hear about the passing of someone who you were close to.
Yeah, because it happens to everybody. Everybody
Mhm.
loses someone.
Two things in life that are certain, folks: death and taxes.
Yep. I think taxes are worse.
Ugh. Oh,
Yeah, I'm an
making me
adult
sick.
now, and it's like, ugh. What is
I
all
saw a,
this?
I saw a really cool video of
Ugh.
some young lad, and he got his first paycheck, and they were filming him in the back of the car, and he opens it up, and his face is so excited, and you see him looking at it, and then his face just starts to turn. They're like, "What's the matter?" And he goes, "They're saying I got this much, but only this much went through to my account." And they went, "Yeah, son, that's called taxes. You're a big boy now." And his face was just like, "Wait, what? I work and they take my money?" And it's like, yeah, that's
It
life, bro.
sucks. There's the
That's
one
life.
with the kid, and he's playing Monopoly, and he's, like, sobbing, and the mom's like, "What's going on, buddy?" And he goes like, "Taxes." It's like, me too.
So, do you have any ideas of how DayZ could be used for this play therapy?
Mm. Didn't think about that. I should have thought about that coming into this and prepared myself. Um,
Have you
I mean, I
seen
think a
have you
big
seen
one.
Bohemia's Make Armor Not War campaign?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll try and find the link for it. If someone in chat can find the link and post it up, maybe your dad or your fiance can grab it for you. But it's something that they're doing basically, and it's really nice of them to do that because overwhelmingly, BI's model is around milsim games, brutal. Allow you to do pretty much anything. You can murder someone. You can be the craziest psychopath if you want, or the nicest guy if you want. But their whole "Make Armor Not War" campaign is around, maybe it's fun to play these games and pretend to be a soldier and to pretend to be a psychopath, but let's do something that might be a bit more positive to the community.
Mhm.
So Make Armor Not War, Armor Reforge and Modding Competition. That's a great link there, Dorkwing. So that one you might want to check out.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it just popped up now in our little private chat. But yeah, it's a whole campaign, and they keep on doing streams where they get guests on. I'm trying to get one of them on because I'd like to talk about them more as well. There's Hellasar's just posted the other one, makearmornotwar.com.
Sweet. Copy and
You are
paste.
very easy to read because you let your mask slip too often, brother. Virgil's saying he's done forensic psychiatry in chat. He actually posted something
Oh.
which he posted something before. Again, this comes back to the is he full of shit or is he not? But he said to me, I don't understand why you were on risperidone. And I was like, he's correct because I had another psychiatrist who went, I don't understand why your previous psychiatrist put you on both of them because this sort of counteracts that one. So they ended up taking me off of the risperidone for that. They upped my dosage of Lexapro, but I was like, okay, so that's something that your average Joe is not going to be able to be aware of. So again, like you said, you take people at face value, but you still analyze it. And when Virgil said that, it was like, okay, I'm more inclined to believe it now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But no, back to what I just said. Can you see any ways that DayZ might be good for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think two of like the biggest, maybe the most obvious ones to me anyway. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about the socialization of the game. A lot of people have a hard time, talking to people. Um, and even through Daisy just starting to acclimate to being around people or, finding a voice, talking more. Um, but also, maybe someone's trying to find themselves. And, Daisy is great because if you want to, you never have to see these people again. And you can try all sorts of different things. Maybe, one thing you want to explore is, like, maybe finding kindness, maybe you want to try to be more kind to people. And so you do it through Daisy, and okay, well, that doesn't really work. So maybe I'll try, just being nice, not exactly kind, giving less. Maybe that works. Just exploring, different aspects of, your own personality and, again, socialization. Because it can be hard talking to people, sometimes. And, sometimes being able to, for like a better word, like hide behind, you know, a digital character is easy. They can't see you. They're not going to remember your voice. Everybody sounds the same. So what do you have to lose, in that sense? Like and also, this is something that just popped into my into my head. In terms of just going out and talking to people, like having genuine connections with strangers, if that's something you want, because I feel like that's not something that's accepted nowadays. Just talking. Like I fall into that too. At work, I work retail, and so a customer will come up and like they'll have a shirt on, and I'm like, oh, it has like, I don't know, a band I like or something, and my instinct is to go, oh my gosh, I love your shirt, and then want to talk about it, like, oh, what's your favorite song? Oh, have you seen them in concert? But then you start thinking, and it's like, oh well, do they really want to talk? They don't really seem like they want to talk. And I feel like it's not, people aren't as open, like it's the words are hidden. I feel like it's not as widely accepted to just be yourself and have like genuine, deep, authentic conversations with strangers, because everyone's trying to get somewhere. Everybody feels like they don't have time. It's that
When
stranger
we've got
danger.
so much technology at our fingertips, and yet we're more time poor than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's busy. Everyone's in a rush. I feel like a lot of people don't take time to see, what's around them and appreciate human beings,
100%.
essentially, going at it from that.
Even as controversial as I am, and I have a lot of hot takes on, I have 2 social media accounts. I have my Virgil, you're not offending me, mate. I'm genuinely fascinated, and I'd love to chat with you about maybe getting you on as a guest in the future as well, because I love talking about this sort of stuff, psychology and social aspects. And Clay's just brought the conversation to another area that I'm really passionate about. That whilst we're more connected to people, I've got friends now in Denmark, England, Thailand, all over America, in places that it never would have been possible for me when I was a kid to have friends in those areas, unless a physical friend moved there or it was a family connection. And now, I'm looking at my Discord direct messages, because I just sent Vidge one. Vidge is Australian. Phil, you're American. Murray, he's Aussie. John McLean, I think he's German. Steve Salutesh, he's English. My son, Minder, who's Dutch. Luce is here, is English, always streams English. Fubar, Aussie. Wobo, English. Andy, English. Match, Aussie. Orcs, I think Orcs is German. Marks, who's Irish. The further I scroll down, these are all friends from just all over the world. But
it's
when
amazing.
It comes to the IRL side of it, you bang on the money. Like, I kind of, again, being me, I don't make friends easily IRL, but that's not because I'm a standoffish sort of person. I will always be polite and try to converse. And I am that person who, if I see you wearing a cool shirt, I'll stop you and say, fucking love that shirt, bro. Love that shirt. And maybe have a quick chat. Because overwhelmingly, I find that most people, after they get over the initial shock of, wait, what, some random's talking to me, they walk away with a bit of smile on their face. I'll compliment someone if they're wearing something nice or something like that. I'm very hesitant on that one, particularly if they're a female, because I don't want to be accused of being a bloody sexual predator or something like that. But if I see something that's really stand outish, I'll go, bro, I love those shoes, or I love that outfit. You know, if someone's wearing a cultural outfit or something like that, and it's one that I like. You know, I got really sad when I was taking my son to work every Saturday morning. For a few months there, we saw this girl dressed up as a geisha every day, walking towards the largest hospital there. And yeah, because I was driving, I couldn't stop, but I always wanted to one day just wait there and just say to her, can I ask where you're going? Because this was in the morning, about 8 a.m. in the morning. And I was wondering, was she seeing an elderly relative and dressing up to, you know, maybe that they were in the final stages of their life and it was something nice, or was there some sort of group she was in? I was genuinely fascinated, but I would have loved to have been able to just say to her, I love that outfit. You know, it looks awesome. But I think people need to stop being so scared of just initiating a conversation with someone. Yes, you know, obviously, if you are time poor, you can, but sometimes maybe take that bit of time. You know, the amount of hate and division that's in the world at the moment, we always need to be reminded that at the end of the day, regardless of whether you're left-leaning, right-leaning, straight, gay, Muslim, Jewish, whatever, all the big flaring topics and all the rest of it, we all still eat, sleep, drink, breathe, shit, bleed, die. We've got way more in common than we don't have. And we need to be reminded of that as much as possible and stop listening to a lot of the rage baiters out there trying to fuel the division generally, in my opinion, rage bait. They're grifters and they're trying to capitalize, whether it be keep their jobs as politicians or, in the case of a lot of your far right and far left ideologues on YouTube and things like that, they're capitalizing. They're making bank on the hate.
Yeah.
It's hard. Again, there's that psychology. They know the tricks. They know the tricks to lure you in. And as aware of it as I am, I get sucked into it all the time myself. And it's a conscious effort to, as you could probably tell, I'm quite conservative in my values. And there was a while there where I was watching Crowder and Ben Shapiro and a lot of those classics on that sort of thing. And then because I'm thankfully a bit older and smarter, I started realizing that whilst I agree with them on some shit, these people are just fueling hate and division. And a lot of what they say is not based in any sort of merit. It's just them trying to sell their mug club or get you to subscribe to the Daily Wire or whatever it is that they do. And it's the same on the left, the likes of Hassan and that. He's doing it from the different ideology. When the majority of us who are just in the middle, being Australian, I'm quite as much as I said I'm quite conservative. I've also got a lot of very strong socialist views because we have a lovely socialist democracy here in Australia. We embrace capitalism, but we have great social security networks, free healthcare. Dorking, Boydie Twitter was wild back then. It wasn't wild, mate. Just some people just they choose to be more on the I don't agree with you on this, therefore I must hate you. There are very few people in this world I hate. Even those who I disagree with 110% maybe on a topic doesn't mean I hate you. I'll hate you because of something you did to me. I won't hate you because of your belief in a religion or an ideology. I might not like you, but I don't hate you, and I can still try to work with you. What do you think on that? You know, particularly being a Gen Zer and studying psychology, how have you found that sort of stuff happening in the world at the moment?
I don't know. I mean, it makes me sad mostly. You know, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. You know, we're made of the same stuff, like you were saying. And yeah, I mean, it's all just things we've created and that we've given meaning to, when at the core of it, you know, we should really just love each other, you know, accept each other, believe what you want to believe, do what you want to do, and you know, yeah, to put it simply.
Yeah, try to remember that we all have more in common, and that whilst we might not disagree, unless it's pretty much bordering on hate speech that is of a violent sort of nature, most of the time it's fun to talk about, fun to share some memes and all the rest of it, but you don't need to start, lighting the tiki torches and breaking out the pitchforks. for the majority of stuff, as much as a lot of them might want us to be heading that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of went off a bit of the gaming thing there. But you've had a bit more time now, even though I've been chatting endlessly. Any other ideas on how you think DayZ might help with the play therapy side of things?
I mean, kind of in terms of what you said and watching your interview with King Alex as well. I think it's, I mean, you can speak on this more than I can for sure, but I think it's helpful in like a veteran sense. I remember hearing you guys talking, and even today you mentioned, getting like that adrenaline fix,
Yes,
and kind of
endorphins.
exercising.
Endorphins are an awesome
Yeah.
drug, aren't they?
Yeah. And like exercising,
Your eyes, then. You
that
really love
specific
your
part of you.
endorphins.
Oh yeah. Love it. I've got expressive eyes. But yeah, no, I think, in terms of that, just, exploring those aspects and, satisfying certain, needs, or again, you can speak on this more, but, things you miss, or, you know, I don't know. I feel like I should turn that back to you in terms of
It's
veteran
kind of
speak.
funny.
I
It's
can't.
kind of funny for me because I went through my PvP phase of I started like most people watching DayZ back in the day, Frankie on PC, and then a lot of other guys started coming up big, and I was absolutely fascinated with a guy named Sacriel. Him and his team, they pretty much had a call sign for every blade of grass in Chernobyl. Back in the day, and initially I was impressed with it, and then I reached a point where it was like, if I want to play a military game, I'll go play Armor or something like that. And I've had a lot of people say to me, Boydie, I watched you in your PvP. Why don't you go use an aim trainer? And I say to them, I kind of don't want to. I kind of like the fact that I turn into a bumbling mess who opens up the Windows menu, Steam overlay every single time I end
Yeah.
up in a firefight, because it's kind of fun to me, that panic, that oh my god, what's going on? And I don't want it to be. DayZ to me is so much more than just a mill sim. I love the interactions. Well, I'm at my happiest being a base bitch. I love being in the base. I love organizing the loot. The server I'm on at the moment, they've got
Yay,
a
me too.
they've got a cookbook. They've got a cookbook. I cooked
Oh, that's
bear
beautiful.
sausages. I made wolf sausages. I've asked my team to please find me tins of fruit and powdered milk. You can make things like rice pudding and stuff like that. I
We need
am
that in the
literally,
base game.
we
Give me a
do.
bike and a recipe book.
Yeah. Yeah. I shared images of it in my Discord. Just showing people like the sheer volume of recipes, and it's still in early stages, this mod that he's working on, but I love that sort of stuff. And the reward for doing it is the food lasts longer. I'm doing an experiment at the moment. I've got a dried piece of meat, pardon me, and a bunch of these sausages that I cooked just to see how long they last. Sorry, I'm getting over
Love
man
that.
flu.
Oh,
It's been about
totally
2
fine.
weeks. No,
I've got
you don't
allergies,
understand. You're a
so
girl. You don't know man flu. So I'm sorry, but you cannot talk on this topic, young lady.
oh, I know I have 4 important men in my life.
But
2
you
brothers,
still
dad, fiance. But yeah, no,
giving
I have
birth
to
giving birth
it.
has nothing compared to man flu. Man flu is a very serious illness that
I'm
it's
sorry,
life
I shouldn't
threatening.
have joked
My
about it.
my
It
poor
is,
wife,
it's a
she just
serious.
survived a double cardiac arrest, and she had to deal with 2
Wow.
man flu recipients in the house at the same time, her son and me. And she said that was the most traumatic experience of her life. Not dying twice in hospital. Both of us, I'm hoping you can detect the
Well,
sarcasm dripping out here.
yeah, I mean, you guys almost died, so that has to be dramatic.
um,
It's a lot.
on the topic of using DayZ, now what we just touched on then about being a base person, what about the toxic side of those communities? Now, I'm certain you've played on the servers where things start to go downhill, where
Oh
you
my
get a lot.
gosh.
Okay, I would love to know your take on this because I've seen it. I've been I won't say unwitting, but I've been guilty of it myself. Gear fear, valuing. I've kind of reached I like to call it a Zen state at the moment. It's just pixels, bro. That's my saying. It's just pixels. It's just pixels. If I lose it all, it's just pixels. And I've finally reached that point where even as a 50-year-old man-child, I used to carry on like a little fucking school kid who had his marbles stolen or something like that over having my base wiped. And yes, sometimes it was done maliciously. But at the end of the day, now I've reached the point where I really don't care. But that's hard for a lot of people, particularly for a game like DayZ where you have to invest so much into building a base. And it's hard to let go. And that's when things can go downhill. What are some tips or observations you've made as a student of psychology and witnessing this happen on some really good community service? And it can destroy a community, can't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, personally, dying in DayZ is my favorite thing. And that's not sarcastic. That's genuine.
Why?
I love it because I love what comes next. That's my favorite. It's closed on whatever the story was, whether it was 5 minutes or 5 hours. That's come to a close. I can remember it. I had a great time, and now I get to do something new. And
Never
that's
had a
always really
moment where
fun.
you wish you'd just been able to continue that story and had to log off because it broke your heart?
Only once when I didn't get to hear somebody's favorite color. I'll never know.
Can everyone in chat please
I'll
type
never
your
know.
favorite color? It seems
Yes,
like this is her ADHD thing. I need to know your color. I need to know your color.
I have
I
to
need to know
know.
your color. Like Sheldon in
What's your
Big
favorite
Bang
color?
Theory.
But yeah, when I first started playing DayZ, I met a guy in the game. Shout out to Cody. I don't know where he is now. Um, he was super nice, and some mornings we would get on for I think like maybe 3 months. And he taught me like everything I know about the game. Like I did my first, like military runs with him, and I learned how to, make a fire and like cook stuff. And but something he told me I've never forgotten. And he said, at the end of the day, the loot's not ours. Nor is it anyone else's. We all just share it. And I always think of that. It's like the gun is never yours. You just have it for now. And the gun has its own story. It's in my hands now. And then I'm going to run through Northwest Airfield and someone's going to kill me. And then they're going to go pick up my gun. And then they're going to be drinking at the well in Gorka. And then they're going to get shot from behind. And then someone's going to pick up that gun. And, following little things like that. I lost what the question was. I'm going to be honest. I forget what the initial question
about the
was.
toxic servers and how
Oh, yeah.
people's
Sorry.
addiction can destroy a server. It gets really bad and nasty at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's, first and foremost, it's a community. You really can't be selfish in a game like DayZ. If you're playing the game to keep all of your stuff and hoard in a base forever and never get raided, I don't think you know what game DayZ is, because that's not how it works. But everyone, to be fair, everyone plays any game for their own reasons. Everyone likes, different aspects about it. But as with anything, there are extreme sides.
Oh, I like what
Too
Dorkwing
many
just
way
wrote
of
in
looking
chat
at
there. What do
things.
you think of that?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's a good way
Yep,
to summarize it.
I love that.
There's
Also,
I like what you were talking about with the story of an item that you find in that. It's one of the things I saw in Rust that I actually didn't mind per se, in that when you get an item that if you kill someone and you take their gear, the items that you pick up had the name of the first person who either made it or something like that. I've always said that
that's
just
great.
imagine if there was a mod for DayZ that when you pick up a gun, maybe it didn't have something like that, but you hear of people who used to put notches in their weapons. A lot of your indigenous tribes in that, with how many kills they'd had. Picking one up and finding a Mosin that had 27 kills on it, and just sitting there, and it gets you thinking. What about, I wonder what this weapon has seen in all this time that it's been in the game before it ruins or despawns, and or enabling people to add little custom changes to their weapon to personalize it to their style. But we still don't have spray paint back in the game. One of my favorite creators back in the day, Mr. Blackout, used to always get a Mosin and find black spray paint and paint it black. And it was kind of iconic.
Oh, that's
that was
great.
his. Yeah. But there's very little we can do in the game like that to personalize. And I think that's one of the things I love about Rust. Have you ever seen the Rust artists?
No, I mean, I've heard of Rust, but I've never played it or anything. People have told me that I would love it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And then I don't.
There's a whole sub-community of artists in Rust who are actual genuine graphic artists, the sort who would draw pictures for backgrounds for logos and stuff like that, but they're making art in the game. And like I said to you before we started the stream, when I finally went and tried a PvP server, one of the first signs I found was a N-bomb sign, a racist sign about Black African Americans. And I was like, why? But at the same time, you could find the most amazing, beautiful, genuine pieces of art that these people have made. And I've even seen some of the biggest creators in Rust, like William, one of my favorite creators. And he gets this girl by the name of Monstera to come in, and she does art for him. And sometimes that art is functional. He made a snow base where she made a sign that went on the side of the base that basically from a distance made the base pretty much disappear. It was that well done, the art that she did. At other times, it's just traditional art, funny pictures, and or whatever she might be feeling at the time. And I love the fact that they allow that, because it allows for that expression of personality, which is so hard in a game like DayZ. As you said, when you meet someone, you like to try to get a feel for how they are, and barring, are they constantly moving? Are they a bit sketch? It's very hard to get a read on people in DayZ, which you could argue is a good thing, but I personally would love to allow for a bit more freedom. Things like a circle of ears on a necklace. Every time you kill a player, you can choose to chop an ear off. You meet a person with that, pretty sure that they're going to be
that'd be awesome.
But that's a choice you would make as a player. When you meet someone who's got the Kuru laugh, what do you think?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I would love to see more ability to express individually whatever you want to portray. Punish those who do it in an offensive way that's just not acceptable. Like I said to you, that sign, I went and found an axe and I chopped that sign down because it was just stupid. There was no purpose to it. There was no joke, nothing like that. It was just pure racism in its worst form. Well, not its worst form. Its worst form is, genocide, Holocaust sort of stuff. But that was just, there was no defense of that. But to then remove the fact that we can't even write notes now. We used to be able to write notes back in the day. I don't know why. I can't recall. I've got bad memory issues. I forget what I had for dinner last night. But I don't recall them ever giving me a correct answer as to why we still don't have the ability to write notes. And I do wonder whether it's because, there's very few games that allow for that much freedom of expression because they're worried about being cancelled because someone did something naughty. Deal with it. There's always going to be jerks. Punish them, get them banned from the community, ban them from the game, incorporate a way that you can identify who wrote that note or who did that painting, punish the bad actors, let the rest of us just do the fun things, the edgy things, to be able to have a bit of fun.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I always love when I go into a server and I find a pen and I'm like, oh, I can write letters. Yes. It makes me so happy.
There's a guy in the DayZ Down Under community, and he would just leave poems. Some of them were, silly, stupid. Here I came to sit and think. Instead, I only shit and stink. Just sort of schoolyard humor. But I loved it. Every time I would find a note, a piece of paper stuck to a wall, I want to read it. Is it going to be another one from Puffin? And yeah, sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was something offensive. Okay, I'll let the admins know. But most of the time, it was just fun. Yeah, it helps bring life to the community, to that server. You know, you could leave a note. I love to write a note and leave it on me. In case you
Me too.
just killed me. My name was Ralphie. That's the name I go by in game. I'm a harmless trader. I like to just help people out. And maybe, just maybe, they might feel a tinge of guilt. They might think next time
Oh yeah,
before they pull the trigger.
love that. Yeah, I write poetry too on notes, and then I'll write letters that I think are dramatic, like to people that I've ran with before that aren't in the server, but like, I'll leave like so and so if you find this, just to make when someone finds it, they can wonder, what happened. I mean, I'm a dungeon master, I'm a storyteller at heart. So, if I can tell a story, I'm going to easily.
Another kind of area that I want to talk about is something that I've actually talked about previously on the Daisy podcast a long time ago. Now, I just put a link in chat that should be popping up for everyone. Daisy addiction is real and dangerous. And this was just a short that I made from an episode of it, but talking about these online MMO games that, it's not like where you're playing a game where you can pause. It's not like a game where you'll have one round, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever, and then you can log off. And that's the end of that game. You got to, when you go back in, you'll start another round. So that one life is finished. Daisy is a game that requires a lot of time, a lot of energy. What advice would you have with people who are dealing with the game becoming an overwhelming obsession, which it has to me? I've been guilty of this in the past. My wife constantly is reminding me, Boydie, you have a family. Boydie, you have chores. Go on, get outside, go touch some grass. What advice would you have for people there?
Well, it's different for everybody. Not everything, works the same for everybody else. A basic one could be a timer, which sounds like, oh, a timer. But for some people that works, set a timer for like, 2-3 hours, because Daisy does definitely take time. Or, a really good one in terms of timers is schedule something and then play D&D, or not D&D. I like D&D too, but and then play Daisy. Nerd. Play Daisy until you have to go. Okay, well, I'm, going to the coffee shop. There he is. Love him. I got to see the life-size statue one day. I think it's in like North Carolina. But like, okay, well, I'm going to, get coffee with my friends at 2, and it's 11 now. So I have to get ready at 1:30. So I'll play until 1:30. You can't say no to your friends, or your family or whatever it is. So timer is a good one. Another good one that I think is overrated a lot is get somebody who, you trust and who cares about you. Like you said, your wife. Get someone and tell them, okay, I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to play Daisy. I would like you to come get me after, 2 hours. Or if I'm on for longer than, X amount of time, come get me. And, have them hold you accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. I think, that's important and can, build trust. Yeah, I think reaching out to people is an important one. Trying to think of another.
I just found something. I want to make.
I lost that last bit of what you said. I'm so sorry. My audio cut out.
It's doing it again. Whenever I play a YouTube clip, there's an infamous clip from a series called Battlefield Buddies or Battlefield Friends, where there's a guy in the game, and it's all around Battlefield, the game, and he's a Colonel level 100, the highest rank you can get, and the crew find him in game, and they're asking him, how did you get so good at the game? And he basically says, everything that is literally the worst things you could possibly be doing. Got a girlfriend? Yeah, get rid of her. No time for a girlfriend when you're gaming. What do you do about going to the toilet? Shit bucket. What do you mean? He goes, I got a shit bucket. I just shit in the bucket while I game. And it's like,
take a break.
Yeah.
Self-control can be hard, especially when it's something you enjoy.
Yes. Addiction. Everything. There are people who are addicted to sex. There are people who are addicted to alcohol. There are people who are addicted to gambling. There are people who are addicted to fucking the weirdest fucking shit out there. If there's something that you can do, someone, I guarantee, is addicted to it. Eating is a massive addiction issue that a lot of people have. And it comes to a point where you've got to listen to those around you who love you. And might be trying to prod you in the right direction, but you've also got to be self-aware and walk away. Don't get too attached. And it's harder for people depending on their psychological state, isn't it? It becomes a form of escapism.
Sure. 100%. And that can, be a powerful thing in a good way, but it can also be, a powerful thing in a bad way. Yeah, because sometimes it's good to, get away for a while. When I'm stressed, I'll get on Daisy sometimes, walk through the woods. But if that's your go-to and, that's all you can do and you're going to it more and more, maybe you should talk to someone, maybe you should find something else that works. Find another hobby, something else that brings you joy. Or, some people pray, some people meditate, some people journal, go on a walk, pet your cat or dog.
I'm a dog man. Love cats as well, but I like dogs more. Cats, as awesome as they are, they're little assassin ninjas. They've got a massive feral cat problem in Australia. And they're wiping out a lot of they're wiping out a lot of native species.
I didn't know this.
Because they literally have faster reflexes than snakes. So there's videos you can watch on YouTube of cats jumping away from a snake striking at them.
I've seen those.
More likely they're beautiful animals, but as sad as it is, they need to be kept inside a house because it's even more so than dogs. Dogs are more domesticated than cats. Cats, it's almost they can't control that impulse to hunt. How many times do owners come home to find a cat eating a well-fed cat that gets, it's dry food, it's standard food, but it just found a mouse or it found a bird and it's going to kill it. So it's kind of sad. But there's areas where they're basically banning cats now in Australia because the problem's getting so bad.
Wow.
A cat lover video I watched made a video talking about how in Australia, and he said, as antithetical as this might be to what you think, I side with the people calling for the culling of cats in Australia. And it's such a terrible thing because they're beautiful, beautiful creatures. I had to, one of my favorite pets of all time was a cat I had when I was a kid. I rescued him from a tree, the classic cat story. His name was Ira. And it was, he was a marmalade. And sadly, some pieces of shit fucked him up. And he had to get put down, sadly. And I cried my little fucking 12-year-old heart out for days over that. He was such a beautiful cat. He loved me. Just didn't really like other people, but loved me. And then to find him like that, but, that's part and parcel of, like I said before, two things in life are certain, death and taxes. But, yeah. See what I mean about how weird a conversation it is doing an interview with me? No structure. We're now talking about cats. But
I don't have structure either, so this is great.
Just don't live your life by rules, people. Follow the flow. What is
Exactly.
do the weave? Do the weave. God, that guy's fucking bizarre when he gets into talking. They talk about getting sidetracked. My God, some of the stuff. Yeah. Let's not go there though. That's a topic that will divide everyone. But I did want to go back to one thing with the toxic communities. What's some advice that you would give to server admins on how to manage that? Because we've all seen the clips out there of, when an admin loses their shit, or when it's just, the classic badmin. What advice would you give to them on how to manage those groups that are, as much as you want people to be able to play the way that they want to express themselves? One of the things I try to push, and this is something I learned from, I admitted before that I was involved in a pretty bad toxic era on my favourite server, Daisy Down Under. I was quite central to it if things started getting really bad. And I've learned from it. And one of the things that the philosophies that I have now is sometimes taking an L is actually the dub, because it's about, coming back to that point of creating stories. And if you need to win everything, that says more about you as a person. Sometimes your death, sometimes your base destruction can add more life to that server than anything else. And you've just got to take it, let it go. I will. One of my favorite things now is I'm giving away my trade secret here, but I love to portray a friendly trader. But behind the scenes, I love to be the most diabolical, underhanded piece of shit raider scum. And I'm friendly to everyone I can be, but I'm gathering intel. And that's my thing.
That's
I like to do that. So I got to do this a bit on Rust. I like to befriend everyone, but I like to gather intel. And I'll sell that intel, or I'll share that intel with people who are friendly to me. Find stuff out, and that's the way I like to play. And I know it's going to backfire. And sadly, that was kind of what led to the big toxic thing on DDU. But I left telltale signs. I just handled it badly at the time. When they did come in, and they did quite a toxic raid on me, despawned and all the rest of it, and fire barrels and things like that. But, burnt everything they didn't take, which I think is just unnecessary. Take what you want, leave a note or something like that, but don't be malicious about it. But for server admins, what advice would you give them on how to manage when things are going a bit haywire like that? Because it can really kill a server, and particularly if that server is monetized, it can hurt someone's hip pocket.
Right. I mean, I don't know a lot about being an admin. I'm not very smart on that aspect. And
It's
in terms
conflict
of
resolution 101 sort of thing.
That makes sense. I was about to say, in terms of conflict, I mean, my first, advice is always talk it out. But sometimes, especially if, people are explicitly trolling to troll, they're not going to talk. They're not going to take it seriously. I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe it's an obvious answer and maybe not. It's not very deep. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Give it a second.
Conflict theory.
This happens sometimes.
Yeah, well, it happens to me as well. Hi, my name's Andrew. My favorite color is blue.
Hi, nice to meet you. Caddy, my favorite color is yellow.
I love 5 second whatever his name is in 50 First Dates.
I've not seen that one either.
Oh,
is that my third strike?
But I'm reducing. I'm taking 2 strikes away from you because you love Dungeons and Dragons, and in particular, you need Drizzt Do'Urden and Guinevere.
Oh, love them so much. All those
actually, you knew about Dragonlance as well. So all 3 strikes have just been wiped. You got a clean slate again, girl.
Nice, feeling good. Kind of.
And now you just lost your train of thought again.
I found half of it. Half of it came back. I don't know. I mean, in terms of servers and stuff, any community event, there are always going to be the people who love it and the people who are positive. It's just that in a lot of cases, in other places, the negative voices are the loudest. So, really finding the people that support you or what you're doing, or whatever the community stands for. Um, and that sounds harsh, but like weeding out the rest. And now again, I don't know if that's possible because I don't know how being an admin works at all. Um, so from an idiot's standpoint, that's the advice that I can come up with.
The simple version of being an admin is every time someone gets butthurt, they're going to annoy you. They did such and such to me. They did this to me. They did that to me.
Oh,
This despawned. It is
jeez.
literally like being a fucking kindergarten teacher a lot of the time.
In that case, give it to him straight.
Gamers are some of the most entitled motherfuckers I've ever met. Again, it comes back to it's pixels, bro. DayZ is a buggy game that will do weird shit, from send your car rocketing into space, although they seem to have fixed that, to you drop something on the ground and it disappears. Otherwise, I think a lot of the time they just need to be told, again, sorry, but this is me. This is who I am, warts and all. Suck it up, princess. Deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, give it to people straight. Tell them, it is what it is. Yeah, this is the way things are. If you don't like it, I'm sorry to hear that, but you don't have to stay here. You can go somewhere else. There are plenty of other servers that are going to do exactly what you want to happen right here.
Okay.
Just go there.
Here we go. You're entering into another thing of mine. You're suppressing my free speech. My favorite comeback to that is, I respect your free speech, but this is my house and it's my rules. Your free speech doesn't matter a fucking thing to me. You can say what you want, but I can also tell you to get the fuck out of my house. My server, my rules. Don't like it. I love what you just said. There's the door.
Yeah,
Don't hit your ass on the way out.
Again, it's like when someone comes into the store I work at and they're unhappy with something and they're like, oh, we're never coming back here again. It's like, okay, we have tons of other people who will come and they're happy with us. So go ahead. We didn't want you here anyway. We don't say that. We think it. But, but yeah, it's that idea. There's a place for everybody, and if this isn't your place, that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Nobody's making you stay. You can go
the server
somewhere
I'm
else.
playing on at the moment doesn't have a Discord, and I've seen this a few times now where servers are choosing to remove the Discord because, as we see with so much in today's online society, social media is as great as it is for being able to connect. That's how we met each other, essentially through social media. But more often than not, it's responsible for a lot of the division and friction between people because of that lack of hearing a voice, seeing a face, hearing emotion, hearing context. And a lot of servers are choosing to get rid of Discords or areas where people can do pretty much anything other than ask a official question, no general chat, which I understand, but it's kind of sad as well because as much as you'd love everything to happen organically in game, it's very hard when people are only on for a certain amount of time, and when character models change, they come back and they're still playing they're still the same person, but you're not sure if it's them again. Or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it can be easy, when you're behind a screen to forget that there's a human being on the other side. And it does get sad when people who are enjoying something have to miss out because of people who aren't. So like in terms of some servers not having Discords, you're totally right. That's like an important thing because a lot happens in Discord servers. You can connect with people, meet people. I even love like going through some servers I'm in, and someone will be like, to the guy who sniped me here, good shot, enjoy my food or whatever, and like even that's fun.
When you get the guy who comes in and you KOSing piece of shit fucking blah, 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 and then you end up with again, it's like a fucking high school chat fucking group or something. It's just kind of pathetic. And as again, I'm going to put my hand on my heart. I've been central to it. There's a famous video, even as a grown-ass adult, I have been guilty of it. I'm not immune to it. I'm a human. I have hormones and electrical impulses and everything running through me, and where is it? It was one of the funniest videos, and it brought it was one of those moments of, I was being a bit of a, for want of a better word, I was being a bit of a bitch. But it was so funny when they did it.
I love that. Being held accountable for mistakes.
Oh, some people don't like it. Some people really struggle
that is
with
true. Yeah.
But again, that says a lot about you as a person. God, I can't find it. It was just called
the bettering
DD.
myself.
Yes. Like what Virgil was saying before about how I'm quite easy to read. I make no apology for the person I am, but I like the person I am because at least you know where I stand on something. And I'd rather be open and honest than people not knowing where I stand on something. And I love when people are prepared to challenge me on some of my controversial takes on things, because for the most part, that's what I want. I want to have a discussion on a lot of things. Challenge me on my opinions if you don't agree. Don't just call me, whatever ist word you're going to put onto the end of the latest buzzword. Challenge me. Talk to me about it. I'm always open to a discussion. I think, I'm hoping that you've got to see a bit of what I'm like at the moment. I love to talk.
Same. I love it. I'm an extrovert.
I love to discuss things. Like one of my good mates at the moment, a guy named Murray, he and I spend probably every day we'll be debating about something. He's very left-leaning. I'm very conservative-leaning. But actually every single ideology test has me left of center. And I think that's probably because a lot of these tests are designed by Americans, and any socialist sort of values is seen as left-leaning, whereas I think Australia is a great example of, well, no, most Australians believe in, free healthcare and, social welfare and things like that. But you talk about that in America, and it's like, you goddamn communist scum, you fucking filthy red. And it's like,
stupid Americans.
Yeah. I've talked about this before. Like I said before, I wasn't joking when I said my wife had a double cardiac arrest. She died twice in hospital a month and a half ago. After over a week in hospital, the day she was discharged, we knew Australia had a great healthcare system, but we were still expecting to have to pay something. And the nurse said, "Okay, you're free to go." And it was like, "Okay, so do we need to go downstairs and see anyone?" She's like, "No, you can just go." And we're like, even in a country like Australia, I still felt bad that I was leaving. And she got, resuscitated twice, had surgery to put a stent in her heart, had all these scans. She had one of, I think, Queensland's leading cardiologist surgeons working on her, and it didn't cost us a cent out of pocket on that day. Yes, you can say that it cost us, we've been paying our taxes. Yeah, I'm happy about that. I'm happy to pay taxes knowing that any Australian or eligible person in this country, in this case of an emergency, which it literally was, we took her to hospital. We took her to the doctor that morning, and the doctor came. Long story, I had a stroke at the same time. Fucking funniest shit ever. A woman having a heart attack has to basically support her husband in because he just had a mini TIA. And I'm out the back with the nurses. She comes in and the doctor goes, "You're the husband?" I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "She's having a heart attack." And then she died at the hospital. She self-revived. So I think they call it Lazarus syndrome. And then she died again, flatline. And they resuscitated her again. And then she was fine from there, as fine as you can be after having had that. But how awesome is that there's not a cent. No, she was in an ambulance, surgeons, got moved between hospitals, scans, not a cent. Not a cent had to be
That's
paid on the day.
amazing.
Yeah.
And thank goodness she's okay. Yeah, that's
Well, yeah, look,
incredible.
we're realistic about it. We've looked into it and the numbers, and there's a chance that things might not go well. But hey, that's the same for me. I've had 3 TIAs now, transient ischemic attacks. There's a chance that I could have another one and be a fucking vegetable. If it happens, it happens. I probably won't know about it. But if it happens, that's kind of just what happens. And she's kind of the same as well. She's been doing the things going, just put my affairs in order, just so you guys know this is my life insurance and this is all the rest of it. And we're both kind of in that sort of a zen-ish sort of state of, it sucks. I don't want her to die. Fucking, she's my best mate in the whole world, but it's a reality that I've got to try and deal with. And it's weird when you how the hell did we end up on this topic? We've done
I don't know.
Weird segue.
Nothing wrong with it though.
No, it's a good conversation.
Yeah. No, it's good to be at peace, especially with, one of arguably the biggest fears and unknowns in life.
This one you might like in your sort of thing. She described dying as the most beautiful sleep you will ever have.
I do enjoy that.
She said it happened to, I believe, on the bed next to me as well, because I heard what I thought was a death rattle, and I shook her like I panicked. I full fucking panicked because it kind of triggered some shit embedded in my brain, and I was like, that wasn't good. And I was like, Dale, and then I started shaking her, and then she kind of snapped awake. And she was looking at me, she's going, what? And I went, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I was just sleeping. And I know her. I know she doesn't fall asleep like that. But afterwards, after she'd been to the hospital and that, she goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure you were right that day, because I was ready to call an ambulance. And her and my son gaslit me into thinking I hadn't seen what I'd seen. So we didn't call the ambulance, and we waited days before we were finally able to get her in to see a doctor. But yeah, she said to me, yeah, even in the hospital, it was like that day on the bed with you. I thought I was just having the most beautiful, peaceful sleep ever. And I just wanted to go back to sleep. And she said even when the nurse was, after she died the first time, and she's like, Belinda, are you back? Are you back? And she's going, yeah, I was just sleeping. Just let me go back to sleep. And he was saying, no, I'm sorry, but we can't let you go back to sleep. She's like, I really want to. And she said, I think I am going to go back to sleep. And that's when she died again. But that to me was actually really heartwarming to hear, as terrible as it was, to hear her say that. I was like, darling, that's one of the most beautiful things ever, because everyone wonders about what happens after you die. And barring, the religious side of it, yeah, I kind of wonder. But to know that it feels like going into a beautiful sleep, fuck yeah, I'm down with that. I don't want to die, right, but I'm down with that if that's what it is. I'd much rather that than fucking hellfire and brimstone. I don't know, I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot more beautiful. It's a lot more comforting. There's a really, obviously it's different because it's fiction, but there's a show called Midnight Mass. It's like a horror show, very fun. But there's a monologue in it. I think it's around 4 minutes. And it's a character like kind of contemplating what she thinks death is like. And it's just a gorgeous monologue. I mean, it's fantastic. Definitely worth looking up. I don't remember what the monologue is called, but it's fun. Again, it's fiction, but the idea is there.
Mate, we've been going for about 2.5 hours now. Is there any other topics that you would like to touch on? Anything at all? Anyone in chat got any questions, actually?
Oh, yeah. Well, wait for that. I noticed that 2 people said that their favorite color was pink, which is not a common answer. So I find that interesting.
Really?
Yeah. The most common
even amongst women.
Black. Yeah, even amongst women. The most common answer is black, and then
There
like
goes that
red
stereotype in my mind.
and green. Yeah.
Red, black, and green.
Yellow and orange are like the least two.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are kind of moderate. But yeah, pink is a fun one. Pink isn't one that you hear often.
What about purple?
Purple, it depends. Yeah, it could be sometimes. You know, I haven't heard it in a while, come to think of it. Yeah, no. Purple is like moderate, I'd say. Yeah, that one's pretty moderate.
Color is violet. Yeah. I cannot find that DDU slap video for the life of me. I need to find it and make sure I save it, because it was just such a well done breakdown of how pathetic some of us were being. And it was have you ever seen the it's an Australian comedy show, and it's a bloke in the backyard at a barbecue, and he just starts slapping everyone.
No.
Have you ever seen that? I'll try and find that. But people have taken it, like the Hitler speech from that movie that everyone redubs and makes about, a Daisy update, or about, Hitler finds out about Xbox Live breaking, or Hitler finds out, and it's that scene where he's shaking with the glasses, and it's when it's from the movie where he finds out that, pretty much Berlin's about to fall, and he loses his shit. You know that meme?
No, I'm behind the curve. I'm not in with the times, apparently.
Okay, you just got another strike back.
Oh, dear.
And he's one of the most
one or two.
No, you're only on one. You're only on one now.
Okay.
Downfall's
I can
the movie.
Maybe earn it back.
Hitler. There's a whole playlist of it, and as bizarre as it is, they're actually incredibly funny. It's one of the things I love about comedy, turning something terrible and making it something that's actually funny. And there's a whole playlist. I just shared it in chat. Some of the Hitler finds out about the downfall parodies. Hitler gets rickrolled. Hitler gets swine flu. Hitler finds out Pokemon aren't real. That
would be devastating for anybody.
Hitler rants about PlayStation Home. Hitler is waiting for PlayStation Home. Hitler gets banned from PlayStation Network. And it's turning one of the most terrible people in history into a laughingstock. And I think that's brilliant. That's comedy done right. And yes, it's okay. Here's the DayZ one. Hitler's Paladin gets nerfed again. Sorry, not Dragons one.
Not the Paladins. I just played a Paladin for the first time like a month ago. Broken. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's
okay. Well,
here it is. Here it is. Let me see if I do I risk it? Let's risk it. We're getting near the end of the show.
Always.
Bruh, only Boydie knows about this shit. Fuck off, Dorkwing. I love Dorkwing, by the way. Okay, so this is something I can do, but because I have Aussie internet, I'm always wary of it. Share screen. I understand. But this is one of the most memed things you'll ever see.
Okay.
You see it?
Yes.
From the makers of one of the most successful dramas in recent history comes the follow-up series, The Slap, Part 2.
You know what? They'd already started repairs, so we couldn't even take it anywhere else.
Ah, shit the way they do that.
Tell me about it. 2.5 grand later, and then...
Hey, oh no, I lost frames. I can't see the video.
Hey, what's going
it's
on?
frozen.
Noah, give it back.
No!
I said give it back now. Noah!
Larry, what the hell are you doing?
Larry, you can't just...
I'm getting bits and pieces.
Larry!
I saw him slap a kid and it froze. It's like stop motion.
Okay, I ended it. I ended it, but I think you can get the drift of what it's about. You just start slapping everyone. Yeah, and what they did was the guy doing the slaps is the owner of the server, and everyone else is all the players who were being all, little bitches and little toxic pieces
Oh,
of
that's
shit.
great.
And they put the name of each person over it. But in this case, they made the two worst offenders, which was me and another guy. We were the two kids arguing over the cricket bat. He made me the girl because I was the I don't even know why he made me the girl, but I didn't care. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And
That's
yeah, it was
great.
just Spud was the server admin. It was just Spud was just slapping everyone because he'd had enough. He'd had enough. And that was the first time I saw them. They banned the general chat because that's how things got really bad, was everyone was at each other's throats in general chat. And it brought me back to another thing that I think a lot of people forget about when it comes to gaming is, why do we game?
To have fun, to relax.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I get that some people may get their fun from different ways, but at the same time, again, part of being a good human is thinking about your fellow man, and I mean that in the collective sense, folks. Don't fucking lose your shit. But try to add value. Everything you do, try to make it add some value. Yes, on the flip side of that, you might just have been KOS'd. And as frustrating as it is, and I get it, I've been there. I shared a clip once of me. I was on a server where you had to sleep, and I lit a fire. I was down south in Livonia. I thought no one was around me. I was in a hunting stand, and I laid down, and bang, you were dead. And I was so fucking furious. Now, in my mind, I kind of wondered whether it was someone who'd stream sniped me or something like that. But at the same time, the other thing you've got to remember is don't get main character syndrome, I think it's called, where you are only concerned with how it impacts you. You don't know the story of the person who just killed you. Yeah, more than likely, they're just a KOSing piece of shit. So be it. You're playing a game that allows that. If you don't like it, go play fucking Club Penguin or something like that, boys and girls. DayZ's an R-rated game in most places, 18 plus, adults only. You're playing a big boy and girls game, so put your big boy and girl panties on and suck it up, princess. But there's a good chance that person may have been desperate for medicine, may have been starving. And yes, they could have taken a chance and asked you, but they chose to kill you. There was a reason. Might be that that's just how they like to play. Again, you're playing a game with the big boys and girls. Some people like to do that. Deal with it. My mate Vigilante's got a great video about why KOS is not ruining DayZ. And as much as it sucks that it's a pretty shitty way to play the game, if you don't have KOS, you're then entering into a strict RP enforced game where there's no threat of dying with every action you take. You chose to run across that field and got KOS'd. You're going to cry about it? No, you chose to run through that fucking field. Every decision you make, there's going to be a reaction to it, and that's a life lesson in general, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So as
What is it,
frustrating
every...
as it could. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, is the quote, every reaction has an equal opposite reaction?
Yeah. Yep.
Hamilton.
And you've got to accept ownership for some of what you do. It's I once saw someone arguing, and this is a sports reference, about how they hate how with third umpire technology and all the rest of that sort of stuff now, a game can be decided by a referee looking at a video clip of what just happened. Well, yes, but no. You played in a way that enabled the outcome of that game to be decided by that. You still had some element of choice. I know there's a smarter way to word that. And like I said, I forget a lot of shit. But you had some say in the result being decided by an incorrect call via video ref or something like that. Yep, you can jump up and down, but at the end of the day, you enabled that situation to occur. You could have played better. If you go back through the game, you'll see so many moments where if you'd zigged instead of zagged, if you'd kicked instead of held onto it, or whatever the sport is that you're playing, and that goes with almost everything in life. So a lot of that comes to, accepting ownership and not tying it back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, not trying to use something as a shield or playing the victim or something like that, accepting a bit of ownership that very rarely is something completely out of your control.
Yeah. I heard I'd have to find the video and who made it. But there's a video I saw a while back that inspired a humanities paper I wrote for college, actually, about DayZ.
Really?
But there was a yes,
Is
that
that
was great.
something that's publicly out there that people
Yes,
might be able to read?
I turned it into a YouTube video, actually.
Send me a link, and I
Will
will
do.
add that to the description of the video
Yeah.
because I know my mate Vigilante would probably love to read it, but I'm certain there's many others out there who'd be fascinated at hearing an opinion on that. I know I will be
Proud of that
watching that
one.
video.
It's the only paper I've ever written that I got an A on.
Send it to me as a DM, and I'll
Um,
post it in chat now. That's fast.
Sounds
I'm
great.
actually gonna before you send me the link, I'm actually gonna send this to the dev team.
Oh, for sure.
Awesome.
But yeah, the video I watched, this isn't the quote exactly. He put it a lot more eloquently. But he said something like, sometimes you're the main character in your own story, and other times you're a footnote and a body in someone else's. And I always thought that was really
Love that.
beautiful.
Love that.
Because it's true, sometimes, you're the main character and everybody else around you, gets killed or you lose them, and it's just you. You're the only one carrying the story, and you're the only one, alive now who can remember it, in the game. But other times, you're just a stepping stone to something greater or something worse.
Yep.
And it's fun
I
to
love
not
that.
know. The mystery is exciting.
That's again part of the beauty of DayZ. A lot of other games out there there's even servers out there that have a kill feed that pops up. And as interesting as that could be, sometimes the beauty is in not knowing. It enables people to do things like I talked about how I like to play this nice friendly trader guy, but at the same time, depending on what mood I'm in, I might be that sneaky, underhanded, dirty rat who sneaks into your base and snipes you or something like that. And I can't create that story without the fact that people can't know that it was me, unless I choose to tell them, or there's some sort of sign. And I do think that there's elements of DayZ that could be worked on to enable better storytelling in the game, like we talked about, with the expression of art and customization of certain things. Customization to personalize your character in DayZ is pretty ordinary, to be honest. It's everything is focused towards dressing up like Johnny Rambo, all the best gear. His military
Dressing
gear,
up is
all the
my
best.
favorite.
But at the same time, dress up is great. As I said, when I used to play DayZ Underground, about as far as I would go with role play was one of my favorite outfits is the fireman's outfit. And
Oh, yeah.
when it came to having a background story, because sometimes I would go with it, sometimes I wasn't in the mood for it. But people say, "Oh, you're in a fireman's outfit." And I said, "Yeah, really funny story." They expect you to go, "I was a fireman." Probably one of the most lame stories you can. I'm dressed like a fireman because I was a fireman. The story I would come up with, I'm actually an adult dancer. And the last gig I was at was when the virus broke out, and my shtick was I was a fireman. Come out and sexy fireman and strip off, and I've been stuck in these clothes. Yeah, okay. See, it's giving you a funny reaction.
It's so good. Imagine the Ben Franklin stripper. That's so good.
And it's even worse because I generally pick the old man skins for the game as well. So it's like this. Who would be sad enough to hire an old guy dressed up as a fireman to come and be their stripper?
He's just been this way for a long time. He hasn't found any clothes. It's the same outfit.
But that's it. The main reason I love the fireman's outfit is early game. It's brilliant because it's got great inventory space and it's waterproof. So you don't need to worry about
and it looks
getting a flu.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, it's so good. I will always always sacrifice better gear for looking cool. Military
One,
helmet, forget about it. I want that cowboy hat.
one of the things I heard, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe it's a line from White Men Can't Jump, but it doesn't matter how good you look playing. Sorry, it doesn't matter how well you play. It's how good you look playing. And I've said that
Oh
many a
yeah.
time. I love to dress up. I love, one of my proudest moments was, I don't know whether you've ever seen it, the Australian Slouch Hat. That's in Winstride's clothing pack.
No.
It's
Wait,
a
yes, I have.
yes, that's
Yep.
actually my hat. That's designed based off of my hat from the army. Because I paid
That's so
Winstride to do
cool.
a commission job that didn't end up going, and I had some credit with him. And he said, do you want the money back? And I went, no, mate, I've given you the money. So what's something I could do? And he goes, I could add something to the clothing pack for you if it's suitable. And I said, mate, I would actually really love. And I gave him a photo of the hat, and I found some specs for it, and it's kind of custom. I don't know where I put my hat at the moment, but it's here somewhere. But instead of having the traditional khaki puggaree, it's got the green puggaree from the unit that I was in, 1 hour. So it's my hat. And when you get that hat and you turn it over, there's actually a barcode, one of those Q codes in there, Q scan codes, that takes you to my favorite charity, which is Wounded Heroes, which is a
That's
charity
amazing.
that deals with veterans in need. And they do, the thing I love about them is they do kind of semi-unconventional fundraising, which unfortunately, due to the nanny world that we live in at times, eliminates them from a lot of government funding. But they're the sort of people who, if they hear of a soldier who's suicidal or really down and out, they'll go there, get $100 out, and sit down with him and say, "What do you need?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got nothing." And they're like, "Do you smoke?" "Yep, I'll go buy you a pack of smokes." So straight away, because they do that, that eliminates them from a lot of government funding. But I personally think that is real on the ground help. If you've never smoked and you don't understand it, but smoking is so fucking addictive. And when you're down and out and you don't have cigarettes, it actually affects your mood. So to be able to go there and buy them a pack of smokes and a hot meal or something like that. How can
You
that
have to
not be
meet people where
something?
they are.
Yeah. Thank you, girl. I'm taking another strike off you. Come on, fist bump.
Yes.
Fist bump.
Yeah.
Fist bump. There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. And it's do what you can as you can to help those around you. And that comes back to the gaming as well. Yes, it is about you. And first and foremost, you should always be worried about yourself and those who you directly love. But don't be completely selfish. Try to consider the impact your actions may have on those around you, whether it be IRL or whether it be in a silly video game where it is just pixels, but you don't know the story of the other person who's on the other side of that screen to you. They may have just had the worst day of their life, and they may be coming into DayZ to relax a bit. And if you do something, really fucking nasty, like a grief raid or something like that, you could tip people over the edge. Yes, you don't have to be worried about everyone else, but try to have a little bit of humanity, a little bit of empathy for your fellow man. I said I'm empathetically empty earlier. I kind of lied about that. But I'm empathetically choosy. I don't worry about things that are completely out of my control, but if I can do something nice to help people, I'll do it. I did the giveaway just in the Creator Club. I spend $20 a month on the Humble Bundle Choice Pack, and that's 8 games I get to give away every month. And hopefully that makes someone's day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just my little thing to be able to do something nice for people.
Yeah.
What do you do? What's your little thing to be nice, to make a difference?
My little thing? I listen. A lot of people just need somebody to listen. That's me. I'm a good listener.
I'm a good talker.
See?
I'm a bad listener, I've been told many a time. And I know I'm going to get comments in this as well. I have a tendency to overtalk my guests, and it's a problem of mine, and I try my hardest, but I just get so engrossed in the conversation. And
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I've been with my wife 26 years and I still sometimes talk over her. And she gets frustrated with me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, darling. I can't help it. It's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you love her. You know that she'll listen, and you want to
She's
share
still
what's
with me.
important to you.
She's
Yeah,
still with me.
exactly.
26
Yeah.
years. Get less for life. She keeps it telling me.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way.
She's my rock. She's helped me through.
That's great.
Everyone needs someone. As strong as you think you are, as tough as you think you are, you all need someone. You need a soulmate, and you need to find that person, whether it be, whatever. Just find someone. And the other thing I'd like to say to everyone is relationships take work. Don't go running at the first sign of any trouble. You got to commit to it. I'm not saying you stick around with someone who's clearly toxic and dangerous for you, but the average little thing here and there, everything's to throw away these days. I've had dizzying highs and terrifying lows in my relationship with my wife, but at the end of the day, I love her now more than the day I met her. That's about as soppy as I get, motherfuckers. And if anyone clips that and shares that, I'll fucking kill you.
You heard it right here. Yeah, my fiance completely changed my life.
You
It's
gotta learn.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, you don't know who you can be until you meet the person who
It's such
makes you who you are.
It's such an odd thing that I don't understand. Now, removing the lesbian and the gay relationships from this, because that kind of makes sense to the next point I'm going to make. Here's a question for you, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Now, your fiance, I'll ask, is it's a man?
Yes, sir.
I think you said he. I think you said he before. So yeah, just confirming. How is it that the people we choose to spend the rest of our lives with are people that there are so many differences at our core? Now, if I want to go watch footy, I'd rather watch that with my mates, with guy mates. If I want to, that's one of the few things that I can really think about now. But so many of your activities in your youth are based around, hanging out with mates who are generally always of the same sex as you. It's so bizarre to me, and it speaks to something deeper than we all understand. This podcast is almost as long as the Fellowship of the Ring. Fuck you, Dorkwing.
Respect.
Not the extended version. Is that a dare? Do you want the extended version? But
Yeah.
it's so weird that for the most part we seem to bond with a person of the opposite sex. Not saying that that's the norm, but for the most part that is the norm. It's the average relationship is between a man and a woman, and it's so weird that we choose to spend the rest of our lives with someone who is so different to us. But I love it. I love her. Even after 26 years, I'll still go to her and I've watched a clip of that, something about the inner workings of the female mind. And I go, is this real, darling? Is this how you really think? And she'll go, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, wow. But I love that. I don't know whether that's part of it. That constant learning. Obviously, there's the procreation side of it. Man and woman to create a baby, and everyone asks what the meaning of life is. To me, the meaning of life is to give birth, to have a kid and continue, evolution and all the rest of that sort of stuff. I don't like to think too deeply about it, other than be good. Try to make sure you got two more ticks than crosses against your name if you end up at the pearly gates and there is something there. But yeah, it's so bizarre to me. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever thought about that, or is that something that I've just thrown at you that you never really thought about?
I think that's something you've thrown at me, because most of my friends growing up were male, so that's
Well, you
not
said
something
before
that I
though
ever
that
experienced.
you were quite a tomboy.
Yeah, I had my still best friend now. Like, we grew up, our parents went to college together, we grew up together. For a long time, she was my only girlfriend. Like, now that I'm older, I have, girlfriends that are into the same things as me, video games and, movies and all that sort of thing. But yeah, primarily I always had guy friends. So yeah, that's not something that I ever really experienced. and nothing I've really thought about because of that.
I don't know. That's just one of those weird things that keeps me up late at night.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna think about that now. I've got lots to think about.
So have I. So have I. I'm
Yeah.
going to be watching your Survivor's Mind. I remember when I was looking at your channel, I saw it and I went, well, that's an interesting one. And then I completely forgot about it. So I'm glad you brought it up again. And I've
one's
sent it
my
through
pride
to
and
my mate
joy.
Pidge, like I said. So I'm really interested to see your take on it, because he's talked similar sort of stuff. You know, like I said, sent you through the video. I'll send it to you again as a DM. But his Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and he's got videos on the psychology of doing a hold up on people and stuff like that. That, you know, he talks through you're putting someone in an uncomfortable position, and sometimes you have to be brutal to get it. But and he actually does a hold up live on a guy who did not want to be robbed, and he basically says to him, dude, this is the choices. You either take the chance or we're going to kill you. No, I've got it. I've got the link. She's already sent it to me as a DM, folks. So I've shared that, and I'll share it in the podcast Discord as well. The true intellectual Daisy aficionados Discord. Discord.gg/878 Survivor FM. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to talk the real issues about Daisy, there's only one place to be. Did I do that well? Was that a good elevator pitch?
I was just about to say that was fantastic. That was a great promo. Yeah. Well done.
I allow pretty much anything in there related to the game. Whether it's a hot take, whether it's someone wanting to vent about the game, because again, communication. Okay, I sent that through to Vidge at 2:39, and he's just commented just right then. He said, "Thank you. This makes me wish I could play it more than anything I've seen in years." So that
means a lot.
that is high praise, because even to this day, even though he's a married man now with kids and all the rest of it, he was seen as pretty much the premier intellectual around DayZ. He even had an impact on the game, where back in the early days, they used to call it hardcore, and I can't remember what the normal mode was, but hardcore was first person, and the normal, I think it might have been just normal, was third person. And he actually wrote to Brian Hicks, the lead dev at the time, and said, I don't like the reasoning of why you're calling first person hardcore. He said, if anything, really, third person is harder than first person, because yes, whilst it's easier from a player's perspective, if on a third person, you can flick between third person and first person, but you can use it, and it basically, you'll see a lot of battles end up in a stalemate almost, because you've got two players sitting there using the camera to peek around corners at each other. So
I've seen
they both
that before.
know. Yeah. Whereas in first person, yes, it's more hardcore at its core, but you're both on the level playing field. You've both got to take those risks to peek out, expose yourself to see what the other person's doing. And based on that, Brian Hicks actually changed it. And that's now why in DayZ, they just call third person and first person. No longer hardcore and normal. And it was based off of Vigilante Gamer.
That's amazing. That's an honor, then. I appreciate that.
Look, wait until you watch a few of his videos. I think you'll understand why a lot of people, even though he doesn't really make DayZ videos anymore, but he's done breakdown analyses of people like Toprek, the Running Man, doing videos of where they were in a contact, and he'll break it down and analyze the thought processes. And he even accounts for the caveats of, he basically said, he did one to Toprek, and he's talking about Toprek going, the average player should not attempt this, but this guy is something different to the average player. Based on his thousands of hours in the video game, he and his knowledge of his favorite weapon, Topes, is the Mosin. He can make that thing do things that it shouldn't be able to do in any normal player's hands. But he can you watch him and Minder in particular, when those two play together, it's someone they're dead, someone they're dead, someone they're dead, someone they're dead, someone they're dead. If that was me, I'm still trying to work out how to remove the Steam overlay. But these guys are Yeah, so good. And listening to someone like Vidge break it down and explain it, it's so good because most of these people will upload the clips and most people just sit there and go, wow, that was incredible. But he does videos talking about how to clear rooms using tactics, slicing the pie, but applying it to a video game. And what might work IRL in real combat doesn't always apply in a video game because there's certain video game rules, bullet penetrations and realistics
Rendering.
versus there's so many different factors. And being a Renaissance man, as that's my new catchword. I got introduced. I like that. I'm going to use that as often as I can. But
Twice this stream.
But being a thinking man, he's able to analyze that sort of shit and break it down in ways that, wow, I never thought about it like that. That makes sense. So a great
That's
channel
the kind of thing I'm totally into.
Yeah, and it's greenfield content as well, because even though a lot of his videos were made in the early days of DayZ, the tactics and the philosophies he's talking about hold true regardless of the version.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. I got into psychology when I was 13 because I watched the BBC Sherlock. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, that was pretty cool. That's kind of what this reminds me of, is just like those little, like, how do people work and why do they do things? And that's I love it.
My
so good.
introduction to it was a book by, I can't remember his name. Again, I was only talking about this just the other day, but Why Men Don't Listen and Women Can't Read Maps.
I can't read maps.
You can't?
No, even Google Maps. My fiance has to tell me where to go. I can't follow the GPS.
Apparently, and again, science is always evolving. Another one of my pet peeves is people who say the science is settled. No, science is never settled. Science is always evolving. What they think is true may turn out to be false tomorrow. But the thinking at the time the book was written, Alan Peace, that's the name of it, if you are interested in it, Alan Peace. And it was a bit of a coffee book sort of breakdown of it, but it was more about body language and being able to read it. But in there, he had like a lot of the stereotypes that are based on some stuff. The thing is that, and it's one of those things of why you don't find a lot of female engineers or female pilots in that, but a lot of women struggle with spatial recognition. Is apparently the thinking behind it. It's why women struggle with reverse parking, because it's one of those things that apparently the male mind. You're ticking all the boxes to prove that, despite the fact that you might be a bit of a tomboy, you've got a lot of those female traits. But it's why men struggle at multitasking. Women, the breakdown layman's version of it is one of the funniest things I ever learned is you hear the caveman sort of thing, and that the common myth is that the cavemen would go out hunting and bring back the meal every day. The reality that a lot of archaeologists and anthropologists are finding out now is that they weren't that great at hunting. Every now and then they'd get it, but the majority of the food was apparently sourced by the women who were doing the gathering, berries and maybe some small birds and things like that, while the men were off on their big trophy hunt to bring back a woolly mammoth, and they'd come back a week later with, "Woman, I have brought meat, cooked man meat to make love to me." Whereas the women are there maintaining the camp, raising the children, gathering all the food, keeping the water supplies going, and probably defending the camp from saber-toothed tigers and fucking God knows what else. And I just thought that's one of the greatest things I've ever heard. I know that's an oversimplified version of it.
I love it.
Because the men focus, that's why men are better at javelin throwing and things like that. Darts, a lot of those hand-eye coordination things, because apparently Again, it might have been debunked by now, but at the time, that was the thinking. And this guy wrote this whole book around what makes men and women so different and why it's a beautiful thing. And I love that. I love that we're so different and we need to embrace those differences. And it doesn't matter if you're not at the extreme of what an ideal woman should be or what an ideal man should be, but everyone's on that scale in between somewhere. And I love the differences between us. I think it's something I've said before. I think it's our differences that make us so genuinely interesting. Imagine if we were all the same, how boring it would be.
Lame.
Yeah,
that would suck. Boo.
Weird. God, she'll never live that down, that poor girl.
Oh, she won't. She really won't. Oh gosh.
I feel for her. I do. I feel for her, but at the same time, it's like, you didn't think this one clearly through, did you?
Yeah.
How the hell is she? Yeah. Okay, we've segued again. I feel for her, but she just every time she opens her mouth, she digs it deeper.
Yeah. She was good in the Hunger Games, though. She was really good. That was a good role.
She was in Hunger Games. I didn't know that. I knew she was in
the newer one. Yeah.
I knew she was in the superhero movies. What's his name? Shazam. I knew she was one of the girls in that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so had I until I watched the clip the other day and I was like, wait, is that Rachel Zegler, is it? Is that her name, Rachel Zegler?
Yeah, Zegler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. I had a point on what we were talking about before Rachel Zegler, and I can't remember now.
Yeah, and I've completely. Anyone in chat want to bring us back on to from our weave that we were on? What were we talking about just before I got sidetracked, as always?
I don't know. I do have a fun little tidbit though that you might find fun.
Go for it.
I forget sometimes, but I have a document of most of the people that I've met in DayZ, and it has their name and then the name I went by at the time, which is usually Phil, and then it has the last thing that they said to me.
Thing, because this sounds like a really obsessive sort of thing to document something like.
Probably. It has the last thing they said to me and the last thing I said to them. It's
I'm
always
not going to
fun.
lie, as obsessive and ADHD as that sounds,
it's meaningful.
That's actually that's actually really cool.
There's some really stupid ones, but then there's some really like spooky ones, or like some are really get deep, you know?
Some of those sorts of things are really cool. Like, I've always loved when you see those photos series where someone has taken a photo of themselves every day from the day they were born, and you just see them, and they continue it as they're an adult, and then they upload 20, 30 years of photos of them slowly changing, and that's got to be some severe ADHD obsessiveness to be able to do that every day. I'm lucky if I remember to shower every day. I'm a filthy bastard. But to take a photo of yourself from the same angle every day, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's meaningful. You go back and look, and again, some of them are like the stupidest thing, but then you get some and you're like, whoa. And the thing that
you do this on your streams when you're streaming?
Fun.
Do you like, okay, I died, I need to, because I reckon that'd be something cool for you to do with your chat, your community.
I should start doing that. I usually just, if I remember to do it for stream, I usually do it after, but I should do it during. See? Ideas. This is great.
Yep. Well, you can even, there's certain bots and that you can get where I know you'd still have to put it into your document, but you can have it so that your mods in chat, add kill. They can add a command where it captures the thing, but they might be able to. I know you could do add quotes on some of the things like Nightbot and that, and maybe they could add. You could create a custom one, add log, first and last thing, character name, and they could add that, and it creates that'd be entry number 87, the 87th person that you've met, the last person, and you could bring that one up. Who was that one again? And remember the more memorable ones. And then you've got that command that you could bring up in your chat. And you could even do, set a bot possibly again, smarter people than me might be able to help you with this, but have one that, every hour brings up a memory. Player number 30, and brings up the name. And if it triggers a memory for you, something to help keep the flow of chat going as well. Be your little thing.
Yeah. I should do that. That's such a great idea. I'm going to do
I'm an
that. I
ideas man.
definitely
I'm
have
just
friends
shit
who.
at realizing them.
Well, what did
I
you
have
say?
lots of
Renaissance
ideas.
man.
I'm not a Renaissance
Third
man. I'm the
time.
court jester. And I proudly wear
Amen.
that cap. I proudly wear that cap. Everyone needs a
Yeah.
court jester.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
Mhm.
know what I am. Maybe the
You're
little rat in the
CaddyShackClay. You're
corner.
Sarah Gradfield.
Yeah, that's me.
Mhm. You're young and you're still working all that shit out. One of my favorite sayings in life is attributed to Muhammad Ali. A man who views the world at 50 the same as he did when he was 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. And girl, I am so different to 23-year-old me. I would slap 23-year-old me for some of the beliefs I had at that time. I have come so far as a human, and I hope to live another 30 years, and I hope to be even more different than I am. But yeah, never stop learning, never stop seeking knowledge, and discussions on anything and everything, be it video games or fucking Israel versus Palestine or trans rights or fucking whatever you're passionate about. Just don't let it obsess you. Don't let it become your identity. Remember, you are more than just whatever the current buzzword or flavor of the month topic is.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
I think it's an important thing to continuously seek to, improve yourself and grow and, explore what makes you you, and how that changes throughout your lifetime, which isn't a bad thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with change.
Now, did we get any other questions in chat other than LSR being a smart ass and asking how long did I practice my elevator pitch? To be honest, I can't even remember it. I've forgotten it already. It just flew into my mind and it's gone again. Yeah. But anyone got any other questions? Because if not, I cannot thank you enough. This has been one of the best conversations I say this after every interview, but this is kind of the beauty of what I get to do with this show is I get to have amazing conversations with amazing people who great guest. Thank you, Dorkwing. I hope that this was fun for you.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
I know I talked over you a lot, and I apologize for that. But I hope this gets you a few more visitors in your streams. For those watching, when do you stream, or what are your regular hours of that? Or
Yeah,
are you a bit here
so
and there and everywhere?
because of college, I typically only stream once or twice a week, but it's always on
Mhm.
Mondays, Tuesdays, or Fridays.
Yep.
And then I post YouTube videos whenever I can finish them in between classes, which usually averages 1 or 2 per month. Shorts every week, though. So,
Yep. And what games are
but
you
yeah,
mainly doing them on? Is it DayZ or is there other games as well?
Daisy strictly for videos. In terms of streaming, it's like 99% Daisy, and
Mhm.
maybe like something else thrown in every now and then. Baldur's Gate 3 or a random horror game or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mate, I cannot thank you enough. I have thoroughly enjoyed this.
Thank
It was
you.
100% worth it. Your father should be proud. He's made an amazing young girl in you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. Um,
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. This is
I
great.
hope you get some love. I hope you get some people popping up in your chat. There's the links. Dorkwing, you're an absolute Chad. Posting that there for us, buddy. Twitch.tv/CaddyShackClay and YouTube.com @CaddyShackClay. Check her out, guys. Not in that way, or her fiance will knock your head off. But go check out her content. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be happy with what you see. And I'm going to post it once more in the chat here. Here's a link to her video, A Survivor's Mind to Humanities in DayZ, which is based on a paper she wrote for college. The final year was at the school.
No, it was actually within this first year. It was my last semester that I
Yep.
did.
And you said you got an A for it.
Yeah, only paper I've ever gotten an A on. I'm not good at writing papers, but that's because they don't let me write about what I want to write about.
I'm going to
And this
share this
professor
on
did.
Twitter from the 87.8 account as well.
Oh, great. I
'Cause
appreciate
it
that.
might,
That's
it might be a nice little
that means a
bite
lot.
for people to maybe come and watch and listen to this episode, but also to check out your other content, and whether they've got any questions, because I honestly could have talked for another 3 hours, because there's just
Yeah,
been so many little segues we've gone off on. And hey, look, maybe again, in a few months' time or whatever, we might get you to come back on again and we could talk about
I would be
something
so
else.
down.
But yeah, I have loved this with a passion. This has been such a
Yeah,
great interview.
this is great. Thank you so much. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
agreeing to
It
come
has
on
been
it.
an honor.
No, the honor is
I
all mine.
I fangirled pre call, and I'll probably fangirl a bit after.
Over being on my show.
Yeah.
You have low expectations. You have low standards.
You know, not to me. Means a lot.
It's still that's one of the weird things for me, and maybe this could be a topic later. But I still am genuinely surprised when people say things like that to me, because I only view myself as small fry. I know, being realistic, I know I punch well above my weight in the amount of influence I have in the DayZ community with having done the podcast. And I like to say I may not be a smart man, but I know a lot of smart people. My superpower is knowing who to be friends with. And I don't mean that from a user perspective, but I identify the people who I think add a lot of value, and I try to do everything I can to help them as well. And, some of those people have now gone on to be actual devs in the game. They're big content creators and so on. But I it's possibly a character flaw of mine as well. But the bigger someone gets, the less interesting I find them, for the most part. I'm genuinely more interested in the smaller people and hearing their stories and trying to help them. And my real passion is modders. Modders are so underappreciated in the DayZ community, and
100%.
followed by a lot of the server communities. There's some communities that I'm not such a big fan of because they're quite toxic in their nature, and quite predatory in the way that they run their monetization models. But I'm not anti-monetization. I think everyone should be able to make an honest and fair buck, and maybe make a little bit more than that. A bit of profit. I'm a capitalist whore at heart. I love money. Do you like money?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
Go in and donate to
Yeah.
this girl, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, it's it's a complex world we live in. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and
Me too. Thank you so much
yeah.
again. I
We'll,
appreciate it.
definitely have to come back and visit this. Maybe we'll get you to do a psychoanalysis of our mate Batsy, and you can come back and tell me just how cracked he is.
Perfect. Love that. I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, please go check out CaddyShack on her 2 channels there. I love Thinking Man Gamers, and you definitely are one of those, my girl. You play things through a bit of a novel sort of thing and try to add a bit more value than just pew pew gun go bang, which is the most simplistic way to play DayZ. But hey, that's the beauty of DayZ. You can play it however you want,
Exactly.
provided you
Tools,
obey
not
the house
rules.
rules.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Hang about,
Well said.
is your mic? Is that? Oh, I thought for a second then I thought you had a Rose microphone. I was going to say that's pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it's made out of palm leaves.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had like a second cousin who made it. It's pretty cool.
That
Very
is pretty
nice.
sweet.
My camera's
That is
not
pretty-
gonna
No, you picked
focus
it up
on
quite
it.
well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll put that on
Okay,
there.
mate.
I can't fix that now.
All the best, everyone. Thank you all so much. I haven't got my next guest sorted out, but I am planning a special episode. I've reached out to a few people that being John McClane, Betty, the creator of Deer Isle, Project Lemons, who is probably the most notable console modder that I can think of, Rag Tyson, who is one of the best modders I know. He's created the Rag Tyson's horse, Rag Tyson's, sorry, not horse, Rag Tyson's vehicle mod. He's got his own building mod. He just does some really cool immersive mods. The horse and the dog mod is Hunter's E. And also my brother from another mother, Cobra, to come on possibly next weekend I'm looking at. But we're going to talk about Badlands. What did you think of the trailer for Badlands?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Like, it looks fun. I think I'm going to miss a little color. I like the nature, but
You left that comment on that in the Creator Club,
fantastic.
didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yep.
I did. But yeah, I'm so excited. It's going to be cool. Like a new environment, something warm. The palm trees. I'm really excited about the palm trees.
I
It looks
am
great.
quite excited
I
for it
can't
as well,
wait.
particularly what it's going to open up. A map that size as well that's probably
Yes.
the thing that that I'm the most concerned about, is that a lot of people complain about Chernarus. You know, it's a big map, and you can struggle to find other people, and some of the modded maps that are big as well. Banov, for example, it's so hard to find other players. Yeah, it's going to be a bit easier because it's a big open desert map, but I think that, barring any other issues that might be more technical in nature, I think that's going to be the biggest issue with the map, is how they handle a map that is 50% bigger than the landmass of Chernarus and still capping at 127 players. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But
yeah,
end of the day, DayZ is still in the top 50 games played on Steam, folks. They're doing something right, whether you agree with or disagree with their model. And yes, as with everything in life, there are things that BI could do better with it, but they're doing it right. They're doing it well enough that it's still, after nearly 11 years, one of the top 50 games played on Steam. So always bear that in mind when you're criticizing or critiquing the game.
well said. It's a good game.
It's a great game.
In my
It's a
opinion.
great game. I've drifted away a couple of times and tried some other games, Scum, a few years back, Rust just recently, but I always end up coming back. DayZ is my true love when it comes to gaming. And yeah, DeBoom, you've arrived very late, my man. But yeah, just ending up and wrapping up the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will get out some dates and times once I confirm with the guests. But I think I picked a pretty good spread there to cover modding, map makers, and console, and Cobra as well, just because me and him bounce off each other really well. And we're going to be doing a bit more research. I've been looking at a lot of the screenshots and watching some videos, and just talking Badlands and our thoughts after a week or so of, and seeing how the community are reacting to it. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
It's going to be great.
Not as excited as I was about this interview, though, mate. This was fantastic. It was
Me
exactly
too.
what I was hoping for. And
I'm glad.
hey, I got to meet another person who might make a great interview in the future as well, Virgil, who was commenting on the Facebook stream as well. So I love exploring this topic. Gaming is, like everything, manage it in moderation, folks, but gaming is a great way to de-stress and just have some fun. Never forget that's why we game.
100%.
CaddyShack, all the best, girl. Must be getting pretty late for you now. So
yeah.
what time is it?
1:21 a.m.
You feel my pain. I used to do so many podcasts where I was up until this time, or getting up at 4 a.m. for a 6 a.m. start. But yeah, thank you. So I actually have to ask that because you look pretty bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So thank you so much for wasting 3 hours, 20 minutes talking to this idiot.
Wasting is a strong word. I think this was a fantastic use of time. I had a great time.
I'm one of those people. I do a lot of humor through self-deprecation. So that's just my shtick. I like to take the piss out of myself, and I love when people take the piss out of me as well. So yeah. All the best, everyone. Go check out CaddyShackClay. Links are in the description, and please remind me if I don't, a link to her Humanities, the Mind of a DayZ player video as well. All the best, everyone, and I will see you next time. Ciao for now.